Chapter 1583. Snow Country, Divine World, near the border of the ultimate martial world on the city wall. Yen Ao casually drank strong wine and threw a big bowl to Swanpatian. A strand of strong wine streaked across the sky like a rainbow bridge, filling the big bowl to the brim. In this life, I rely on my great wisdom. My soul wandered around eternal world for billions of years and I only managed to learn one profound secret technique. Additionally, I made use of the time I had to cultivate it to the perfect state, Yen Ao said coolly. Swanpatian frowned, not knowing if Yen Ao was bragging or if he really learned some transcendent secret technique. He couldn't help but ask, "What did you learn?" Dreams are not dreams, reality is not reality. Thoughts rise and fall, wind blows and extinguishes. The starting point is the end, and the end is also the starting point. Wherever the wind rises, that is where it will end. The Tao of reincarnation, the Tao of life and death, all within a single thought. A single thought can lengthen eternally, as if time has stopped. However, Yen Ao stopped halfway and looked at Swanpatian, not knowing what he wanted to say. If you have something to say, then say it. Stop hemming and hawing like a woman. Swanpatian impatiently reprimanded. My soul is as strong as eternity, but my body is as rotten as an ant, unable to withstand a single blow. Yen Ao said sadly. Swanpatian narrowed his eyes at Yen Ao and coldly said, "You can give me this secret technique and this old man can make you immortal. Truly live in the eternal world." Ha! Yen Ao laughed wildly and sprinkled strong wine into the sky. He threw the big bowl down the city wall, his killing intent soaring to the sky. Millions of warriors of the great wilderness died an unnatural death, and now I am the only one left. They have all died in battle, so it is time for me, the marshal, to personally go into battle. Even if I die, I will not regret it. Yen Ao faced the sky and roared. Just as his voice fell, a long spear suddenly rose from the ground and appeared in Yen Ao's hand. Following that, his armor flapped, his bones were firm and his battle intent soared to the sky. Swanpatian, the so-called eternal thought technique is that when my thoughts rise, time and space become eternal. When my thoughts extinguish, time and space cease to exist. You and I are not close at hand, but an eternal chasm. Whoosh! The 9 worlds seemed to be divided into 2, the chasm outside the city was torn to the ends of the world. Whoosh! Just at this moment, Yi Qinghan sped through millions of miles and combined with Inzi. Time flies and stellar transposition appeared behind Yen Ao. Swish! The chasm collapsed, and time and space returned to normal. Yen Ao's breathing was ragged. His flesh was cracked and his battle robes were dyed red with blood. His one-thought eternal technique was indeed powerful, but his body wasn't strong enough to allow him to unleash it. Earlier, he knew that Yi Qinghan had appeared in the Snow Country's divine world. He only wanted to attract Swanpatian's attention, which was why he had no choice but to use the forbidden technique. At this moment, his face was pale, but he was laughing. Swanpatian, I've said it before. In terms of intelligence, I crush you. Since you've listened to my boasting for so long and accompanied me to drink so much strong wine, I hope that I can leave you with an intact corpse in the end. Yen Ao laughed wildly and provoked him without any trace of politeness. Yi Qinghan patted Yen Ao's shoulder. He was the most excited one. With Yen Ao around, being able to deduce the world didn't seem so scary anymore. At this moment, Swanpatian was so angry that he almost vomited 2 kilograms of blood. As expected, Yen Ao was really stalling for time. He had missed the best time to kill Yen Ao. No. He's not some Swanpatian, but a divine rod. This divine bird is the Swanpatian. Kakik, I've already calculated today's situation. The divine bird arrogantly sneered. Swanpatian was struck twice. His eyes turned red and his hatred overflowed. Yi Qinghan sneered at Swanpatian and provoked him again. Swanpatian, how does it feel to have your intelligence crushed? Huang, Yen Ao, don't be complacent. This old man has plenty of time to play you to death. Swanpatian retreated 100 meters and stared at Yi Qinghan, Xianzhe, and Yen Ao. He wasn't afraid of Yen Ao, but he was worried that Yi Qinghan and Xian Zhe would join hands. That wasn't a matter of 1+1. The current Yi Qinghan and Xian Zhe were enough to pose a fatal threat to him. After saying that, Swan Padian didn't say anything else and directly teleported away. Yi Qinghan breathed out a mouthful of turbid air. It was best that Yan Ao survived. Let's return home first and make a long-term plan, Yi Qinghan said in a serious tone. Yan Ao and Yi Qinghan glanced at each other. There was an indescribable emotion in their eyes. They didn't look like brothers, but they were more like brothers. The three of them sped all the way back to the Great Wasteland Domain. There weren't many people left in the Great Wasteland Domain. Only a portion of them survived in Yi Qinghan's Great Wasteland Monument. They were now transferred to the wild martial Great World. For so many years, the survivors of the Great Wasteland didn't have too much pressure. They had been recuperating and recovering their strength. Yan Ao looked at the remaining people and felt depressed. However, when he saw Huang Pring being repaired, he finally revealed a smile that he hadn't seen for a long time. The resentful dragon is gone. There were so many brothers back then, but now, only the two of you are left. Yi Qinghan squeezed out a bitter smile and said helplessly, I will destroy the 7 worlds. Yan Ao roared furiously. Almost all the clans that participated in the encirclement of the Great Wasteland were destroyed by me. Only the 4 realm lords are still alive. I have searched for them for a long time but couldn't find them. They must have escaped from the Great Wasteland Domain. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment and prepared to kill them one by one. However, killing in the Great Wasteland Domain would easily anger the 4 heavenly beasts. This was also the reason why Yi Qinghan hadn't gone to the Great Wasteland Domain yet. Soon after, Yi Qinghan explained the current situation to Yan Ao, including Xiao Yu's existence. Yan Ao looked at Xiao Yu with an uncertain expression. Let Xiao Yu regain her freedom and return the black copper coin to her. Even if Swan Padian is suspicious, he will definitely not believe the image transmitted by the black copper coin. We will do the opposite and catch him unprepared, Yan Ao said in a serious tone. Yi Qinghan nodded and followed Yan Ao's suggestion. He released Xiao Yu from the prison and casually threw Swan Potion's life copper coin to her. You can go, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Xiao Yu was startled and muttered, You're letting me go just like that? Yi Qinghan smiled and said, Yes, help me give this drop of essence blood to Swan Padian. Yi Qinghan squeezed out a drop of essence blood and threw it to Xiao Yu. With a wave of his hand, Xiao Yu was sent out of the wild martial world. Xiao Yu was a little confused. She didn't understand what Yi Qinghan's goal was. However, her body was involuntarily teleported out of the Great Wasteland Domain. Yan Ao looked at the map of the 9 worlds. After a long time, he suggested, we can use the people of the 9 worlds to use the boundary tower to conceal heaven's secrets and lure Swan Padian to the vicinity of the boundary tower. We can seal him, imprison him and kill him once and for all. Yi Qinghan wasn't familiar with military formations and concealing heaven's secrets. Yan Ao was a top-notch talent in this aspect. With Yan Ao's support, Yi Qinghan instantly felt a lot more relaxed. However, we will first need 3 or 4 world lords to cooperate with you. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to kill him alone. Moreover, we will also need to block the 4 world lords of the 9 worlds in the Void Ocean. We definitely can't let him destroy our sealing plan. Yan Ao pondered and said. Yi Qinghan immediately replied, The other 4 world lords are fine. We will contact the 4 heavenly beasts. As long as we kill Swan Padian and kill the 4 world lords, we will give them the 9 worlds and leave. They will definitely be willing to help. Chapter 1584. Yi Qinghan and Yan Ao discussed for a long time, racking their brains to come up with the strongest plan. First, Yi Qinghan brought Yan Ao and the others to the divine world of Snow Country and started the recruitment plan. All the giant god experts of the 9 worlds would be the source of soldiers. Those who performed meritorious deeds would be conferred the title of nobility of the wild martial world, and would also receive the corresponding land. A new world with great mountains and rivers, and it was safe. It was simply a holy land. Who wouldn't want to go in and be called a king? To be revered by tens of thousands of people. A large number of experts hurried towards the Snow Country's divine world. Most of them were giant gods, and there were also quite a few supreme gods. In the entire 9 realms, there were about 300 to 500 pseudo-realm lords. Half a year later, about 200 of them appeared in the Snow Country's divine world. It could be seen how attractive the wild martial arts great world's king rank was to them. A year later, all the experts of the divine world of Snow Country gathered in the mountain river city at the border of the ultimate martial world. Yen Ao began to train the first batch of troops that arrived. The troops were arranged in a majestic array, and their prestige shook the heavens. The array used was like a thunderbolt, and any enemy was pale and powerless in front of the army. They were more than a few levels stronger than Ji Gu and Ju Wuxin. Only Ling Yan could contend against them. Millions of giant gods, most of the experts of the ultimate martial world, true martial market, Snow Country, and divine world were gathered. The secret techniques and systems they learned were all different, and it was difficult to completely match. I want you to use your heart to comprehend the core of the array. I want you to focus your attention on one place, and see the entire array as a person. Each of you is each of the cells of this giant. Each of you must work together to reach the eye of the array, and then burst out from the eye of the array. The power of 100 giant gods working together is definitely not the accumulation of 100 giant gods. It is the power of a peak middle-level supreme god. 10,000 giant gods can crush a peak paramount god, 100,000 giant gods can crush a pseudo-sector lord primary, and 1,000,000 giant gods can wipe out a peak pseudo-sector lord. It's not surprising that 1,000,000 giant gods can wipe out a peak pseudo-sector lord. Don't underestimate the power of an ant. When there are many ants, they can also bite a powerful creature to death. Moreover, you are not ants, but giant gods. Yen Ao's voice was majestic. Every word and action of his could mobilize the morale of the army. Working together to gather 1,000,000 people into a single person didn't just rely on the formation. There were many other details that needed to be honed over billions of times. In the end, they would form a habit that allowed them to quickly sense where the people around them were exerting their strength. More and more giant gods and paramount gods gathered in Mountain River City. All of the pseudo-world overlords who were willing to come were present, a total of 230 of them. The pseudo-realm lords were assigned to the eye of the needle of each formation. Each formation had 100,000 giant gods, 100 supreme gods, and 1 pseudo-realm lord. The distribution of power was very even. In the beginning, Swan Patian did not care about Yi Qinghan's recruitment. However, he had underestimated the attraction of the wild martial great world to the common people. When the scale of the wild martial great world reached over 3 million, he began to forcefully intervene. He no longer allowed the experts of the 7 realms to rely on Yi Qinghan. Martial Zhua is the master of the great wilderness and the enemy of the 7 realms. Their goal is to destroy the 9 realms. Don't acknowledge the thief as your father and help the tyrant. Swan Patian controlled the might of the heavens and commanded the world. Countless projections appeared in various places of the 9 realms to warn the people. However, humans were greedy and had desires. As long as there were enough benefits, they would be tempted. Swan Potion's warning did not stop the majority of the giant gods from migrating to the Snow Country's divine world. Swan Patian was furious and began to kill those who sought refuge. However, there were too many of them. They were like ants. Moreover, it was impossible to distinguish who was going to the Snow Country's divine world. Countless experts flocked to the Snow Country's divine world from all directions. Even if Swan Patian could really predict the heavens, he would not be able to destroy so many people on such a large scale. He would be exhausted to death. In the 10th year of Yi Qinghan and Yen Ao's recruitment, Swan Patian found Xiaoya. When he saw Xiaoya give him a drop of blood essence, his face turned sinister. Provocation? Are you looking down on this old man for being useless? You actually took the initiative to give me a drop of blood essence. Huang, what are you trying to do? Swan Patian growled. If you want to kill someone, you must first make them crazy. Yi Qinghan's action caused Swan Potion's anger to suppress his rationality. He was somewhat deranged and began to let his imagination run wild. You said he deliberately made you give this drop of blood essence to this old man? Swan Patian questioned in disbelief. Xiaoya offered the blood essence with both hands and respectfully replied, "Yes, master." Did Huang say anything else to you? How far has his so-called wild martial great world developed? Can it give birth to gods? Swan Patian asked again. Xiaoya was only a supreme god. She was not even a fake realm lord. How could she understand the so-called great world's development? She could only shake her head in confusion. Swan Patian did not make things difficult for Xiaoya. He only coldly snorted and said, "Since he did not kill you, then you are still useful. From today onwards, you will be in charge of organizing an army for me. All giant gods and above will be recruited. I will intercept those who are heading to the Snow Country's divine world." Xiaoya originally did not want to participate in the grudge between Swan Patian and Yi Qinghan. However, she could not help it. She could only bitterly smile and said, "Master, what kind of method should we use to make them submit?" Huang used the wild martial great world's land and title to attract them. This old man will also use the title and land to attract them. Swan Potion's eyes flashed coldly. He stared at Xiaoya and said, "I will announce to the world that whatever Huang can give them, I will also give them. Moreover, those who receive the title of nobility will at least be bestowed with a top-grade beauty. A high-grade secret technique." Soon, Swan Patian changed his method. Instead of blocking their path of promotion and wealth, why not bestow them with the title of nobility? Finally, a large number of experts began to rush towards the center of the Nine Worlds Heaven, the unsurpassed world's sacred city. Xiaoya personally oversaw the recruitment of the army. Because of the geographical location, Swan Potion's recruitment of the army was actually faster. This brought a fatal threat to Yen Ao's army. Seeing a large number of giant gods gathering in the unsurpassed world's sacred city, Swan Patian faced the sky and laughed. "Huang, you want to rely on a group of ants to cover the sky? I can also rely on ants to tear apart the heavens. Since I can separate this great world into the Nine Worlds Heaven, no one can kill me." Swan Patian laughed loudly. He wanted to restrain the panic in his heart. The current situation was already out of his control. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be on par with him in the blink of an eye. Although he was a bit lacking, there were so many experts in the wild martial great world. As long as one of them disturbed him, he might be wiped out by Yi Qinghan. At the very least, he would be heavily injured. Once he was heavily injured, he wouldn't have any more chances. Therefore, Swan Patian no longer fought Yi Qinghan to the death. Instead, he waited for the appearance of the four great realm masters. Unfortunately, Righteous Heaven Divine Lord and the others were like stray dogs. They fled without a trace and didn't even dare to fight. Swan Potion's face gradually became gloomy. He secretly said to himself, "If I want to kill them, I need the support of those four trash. Otherwise, the four great heavenly beasts will take action. That would be for the best. I need to make a trip to the void ocean." After saying that, Swan Patian quietly disappeared. Yi Qinghan couldn't deduce the trajectory of the world's development. He also couldn't predict that Swan Patian would go to the void ocean. Everything was unknown. Chapter 1585. Swan Patian left the nine-world sky and arrived at the end of the great wasteland domain without alerting Yi Qinghan. The waves of the void ocean soared to the sky with destructive force. Only the fishes could survive in this ocean. Swan Patian rode the wind and waves and borrowed the power of the waves to reach the depths. His first target was the East Sea, the tyrant divine dragon. In the East Sea, Swan Patian quietly reached the peak of the Dragon Mountain. Even the sea dragons didn't notice him. As for the sea dragon's defensive formation, it didn't react at all. "I have come to pay a visit to the heavenly beast tyrant divine dragon. Please come out and meet me." The voice reverberated towards the east. It was as if the heavenly Tao was rumbling and pressing towards the east. Hum hum hum. A dragon's roar was deafening. Huge waves soared to the sky and countless sea creatures were swept into the sky. A huge dragon roared and submerged half of the sea race's continent. Its head and tail couldn't be seen. Only its thick body could be seen rolling over the East Sea. Damned humans! I have tolerated you for a long time. Boom! A huge tail covered the sky and rushed towards the void. The sea sank as if it wanted to destroy the world and devour the void ocean. Wait, Tyrant Divine Dragon, I am here to make a deal with you 4 heavenly beasts. As long as you agree, from now on, there will be no more humans in the 9 worlds. I can even let you use the water of the void ocean to drown the 9 worlds. The entire 9 worlds will be your territory. Swanpodin waved his hand to cover the sky. A huge hand condensed from energy unexpectedly held the huge tail. The entire dragon mountain collapsed from the pressure. Boom! The treasure cave of the sea dragons collapsed. The shockwave hit the Star River and destroyed the sea dragon's millions of years of accumulation. Swanpodin didn't move at all. Only his white robe fluttered. However, his words were extremely shocking. In order to destroy Yi Qinghan, he wanted to devour 2 perfect worlds and destroy the 9-world sky. He didn't hesitate to bury 10,000 creatures. The Tyrant Divine Dragon raised its head and retracted its huge tail. The void ocean surged again and submerged the sea race's continent in an instant. Swanpodin soared into the sky along with the tsunami and looked at the Tyrant Divine Dragon with a calm expression. The huge Tyrant Divine Dragon was incomparably majestic. Its 5 claws were golden and its divine scales shone with a cold light. Perhaps even a boundary weapon would not be able to penetrate its defenses. Its sun-like eyes shot out flames and waves as it stared intently at Swanpodin. Back then, you divided the macro world into 9 parts to protect the human race and prevent us from ruling the macro world. Now, you want us to destroy the 9 worlds. You are really cruel. The Tyrant Divine Dragon looked down at Swanpodin and said in a thunderous voice. Swanpodin raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. He then said indifferently, "That was in the past. Now, I don't need them anymore. As long as you agree, the entire 9 worlds will be yours. However, you must cooperate with me to kill someone. After that, you will hand over the 9 worlds and I will leave." The Tyrant Divine Dragon soared into the sky and its entire body rushed out of the sea. Its endless body coiled in the sky as seawater fell from the sky and heavy rain poured down. The Tyrant Divine Dragon who divided the 9 worlds, known as Swanpodin, was full of metal back then. Now, you need the help of 4 heavenly beasts to kill someone. I would like to know who has such great face. The Divine Dragon asked in a low voice. It's Huang. Swanpodin replied. The Tyrant Divine Dragon's body moved and turned into a giant. Its body expanded and its chi and blood surged. Its dragon might was vast and mighty. It stared at Swanpodin and asked doubtfully, "Didn't you kill him back then?" Swanpodin smiled coldly and replied, "Back then, I wanted to use him to create the strongest world. I purposely destroyed the great wilderness and gave him a reincarnation. However, man proposes but God disposes. I actually nurtured a tiger and invited calamity. Now, his strength is only a small level lower than mine. If we were to fight one-on-one, I could kill him. However, he has many experts by his side who are not afraid of death. As long as they interfere, I won't be able to kill Huang and might even be in danger. Therefore, I want to ask for your help." The Tyrant Divine Dragon's huge eyes shot out golden light and asked, "Now, he has created the strongest world?" Swanpodin shook his head and said frankly, "Not the strongest. However, I have found a better substitute. As long as you are willing to help me, his wild martial world will also be yours." Although the Tyrant Divine Dragon was easily angered, he was not stupid. If he could get the best world, who would be willing to live in this ocean? This is a good deal. I agree. The Tyrant Divine Dragon said firmly. Swanpodin smiled indifferently. He was extremely sinister, as if he had already calculated this. Everything was just as he had predicted. Good. I will remember this favor. If I leave in the future, you will definitely be the 9 worlds heaven's creator dragon emperor. Swanpodin provoked the Tyrant Divine Dragon and said in a tempting tone. The Tyrant Divine Dragon roared in anger. He seemed to be extremely excited. The 4 great heavenly beasts are divided into 4 directions. I know that you are the most reasonable. I am not worried at all. Therefore, I am the first to negotiate. I believe that the southern golden black tortoise and the western heaven-splitting sword tiger will not object to taking over the 9 worlds heaven. However, I am worried that the northern heaven-protecting Qilin will be the most difficult to persuade. It might even ruin our plans. I hope, Brother Dragon Emperor. Swanpatian said coldly. Bullshit, heaven-protecting Qilin. Is the heaven's order to imprison us 4 great heavenly beasts in the void ocean? I don't need such an order. Today I will overturn this heaven. The tyrant divine dragon roared. In a split second, the clouds rose and the ocean surged. The pressure of time and space enveloped the eastern sea. Countless sea creatures were crushed by the pressure. Swanpatian laughed and clasped his fists. Brother, I can see that you are destined for great things. Let's go look for the golden black tortoise and the heaven-splitting sword tiger first. As long as they are willing to help, the heaven-protecting Qilin's attitude is no longer important. If not, the 4 great heavenly beasts might become 2 great heavenly beasts and 1 great creator dragon emperor. The tyrant divine dragon raised the corner of his mouth and sneered. He stared at the sky and wanted to destroy it. Sure enough, as Swanpatian said, the heaven-splitting sword tiger and the golden black tortoise were already at odds with each other. They did not want to follow the heaven's order anymore. They wanted to rule the entire world and control it. From now on, there would be no 9 worlds heaven. After Swanpatian and the 3 great heavenly beasts had a discussion, they went straight to the sea where the heaven-protecting Qilin was located. There was a vast continent on the sea. A golden Qilin opened its sleepy eyes and stared at the sky. It seemed to have sensed danger and immediately escaped from its own continent. By the time Swanpatian and the 3 great heavenly beasts arrived, the heaven-protecting Qilin had already escaped. However, they found Lord Jingtian and the others. The 4 great realm lords were like stray dogs. They did not dare to stay in the 9 worlds heaven. The 4 of them did not dare to separate and escaped to the depths of the void ocean. When they saw Swanpatian and the 3 great heavenly beasts, they were overjoyed. However, they did not know that Swanpatian had already betrayed the 9 worlds heaven. Swanpatian looked at the 3 great heavenly beasts and signaled them not to reveal the agreement so that they could make use of the 4 great realm lords. The 3 great heavenly beasts cooperated and did not say anything. First step: water flooding the 9 worlds heaven. Chapter 1586. Boom, boom, boom. Huge waves surged into the sky, engulfing the endless ocean and rushing towards the great desolate world. Swanpatian, the 3 heavenly beasts, and the 4 realm lords swooped down, shattering the great desolate world's barrier and allowing the void ocean's water to rush into the great desolate world. Whoosh! The flood drowned everything, swallowing the depths of the great desolate world and rushing towards the center of the great desolate world. The void ocean was vast, even larger than the 9 worlds. The power of nature combined with the 4 realm lords flooded half of the great desolate world in the blink of an eye. Divine Lord Jinqian's pupils shrank, doubting the intentions of Swanpatian and the 3 heavenly beasts. Swanpatian, what are you doing? Divine Lord Jingtian questioned first. Of course it's to flood the great desolate world and make desolate lose its chance. Swanpatian replied coldly. If you do this, you will drown the 9 worlds. My divine martial realm won't be able to escape this fate. I won't allow you to do this. Sovereign Shenwu scolded angrily. That's right. With the 8 of us working together, isn't it easy to kill desolate? Why do you want to destroy the 9 worlds? Night Demon God King questioned in a sharp voice. The 4 realm lords weren't fools. They already understood Swanpotion's intentions. They wanted to destroy the 9 worlds. Swanpatian sneered and shook his head. It's just the 9 worlds. As long as you are willing to obey, I can let you have your own complete world and become the creator gods. Why rely on the 9 worlds? The 4 realm lords had been in their respective worlds for countless years. How could they be willing to give up their worlds just like that? At this moment, they stared at Swanpatian with dissatisfaction. Swanpatian didn't mind and said indifferently, "Don't be short-sighted and only look at the small benefits in front of you. The world is vast. Are you satisfied with staying in this small world? What a joke! I have defied the heavens for so long. Isn't it to become an eternal existence and surpass the shackles of the 9 worlds? Now that the opportunity is in front of you, are you going to give it up? The 4 realm lords were speechless. They didn't know how to refute. Trash. You are realm lords, not ants. If you don't want to cooperate, then scram. Berserk Divine Dragon scolded angrily. The 3 heavenly beasts' aura was even stronger than the realm lords, causing Divine Lord Jingtian, Supreme Shenwu, and the others' expressions to turn ugly. At this moment, they could either give up on the 9 worlds or become enemies with the 3 heavenly beasts and Swanpodian. Benefits won over emotions. There was no need to give up their future for them. After struggling for a while, the 4 realm lords agreed to Swanpodian and destroy the 9 worlds. Yi Qinghan immediately sensed that the great desolate palace had sunk into the sea when the heavenly beasts rode the waves and crashed into the great wilderness. Seal the entrance to the great wilderness. Yi Qinghan was shocked and led his army to charge into the great wilderness. There was already a flood overflowing from the entrance. Huge waves swept out, roaring from the depths of the great wilderness. The endless sea drowned and destroyed everything. The heavenly beasts could control the sea, and the waves surged with the wind, heading straight for the snow country and the divine realm. Yi Qinghan was the first to stand at the entrance of the great wilderness. He became one with the great wilderness and sensed everything within. He knew that the great wilderness could no longer be saved. Heavenly beasts, I didn't expect you to interfere. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. He raised his head and looked at the entrance. It was easy to block the flood, but it was difficult to block the attacks of the heavenly beasts and the heavenly beasts. Give up on the 9 worlds? Yi Qinghan struggled for a while and found it hard to make a decision. After all, this was the entire world. Once the flood drowned, how many people would die? No one would be spared. At this moment, there was not enough time to transfer the people of the 9 worlds to Xianzai's Yin-Yang world. There were too many of them and they were too scattered. Let's escape. This was the divine bird's first reaction. There was no need to fight in the face of so many experts. Where can we escape to? The boundary tower? Yi Qinghan murmured. Yes. We will save as many as we can. Then we will immediately go to the first level of the boundary tower in the 9 worlds and plan our next move, the divine bird suggested. Yi Qinghan snorted. How could they survive if they were trapped in the boundary tower? Then what should we do? This divine bird has not lived long enough. The divine bird was frantic and paced back and forth on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. It was so anxious that its feathers were puffed up. Yi Qinghan was lost in thought. The heavens have decreed that all laws are natural. Fate belongs to Xianzai. The law is enforced by yin and yang. The heavenly beasts stand in all directions. Yi Qinghan recalled the yin-yang mysterious record. He always felt that the 4 heavenly beasts had not appeared in the 9 worlds until now because they were bound by some force. Today, they would appear and be forced back to the void ocean. The chance of survival is in the yin-yang mysterious record. But I have not found the key point yet. Time is running out. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and watched as more and more seawater rushed out from the depths. A sinister light flashed in his eyes. Give up on the 9 worlds. Yi Qinghan retreated and appeared outside Shanhe City. Looking at the countless creatures, he was helpless. He could only hold Xianzai's wrist and use his yin-yang world to devour everything in front of him. He would save as many as he could. After all, his wild martial world was not as good as the yin-yang world. Swoosh, swoosh. The army was absorbed into the yin-yang world. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and controlled the yin-yang world. He swallowed more than half of the snow country and the divine world. Then, he gave up some of the savage lands and fled to the ultimate martial world. The ultimate martial world had been destroyed in these years and there was not much left. Everywhere Yi Qinghan passed, everything was swallowed into the yin-yang world. His figure flickered and he moved thousands of miles in an instant. Half of the people in the ultimate martial world were saved. The remaining half could only wait for death. Divine martial world, 6-beast world, unparalleled world, formless world, Yi Qinghan split into 2. Desolation appeared in the saint city of the unparalleled world. Xiao Yu did not know that Swan Patian was going to destroy the entire 9 worlds. She was gathering the army and was at a loss when she saw Yi Qinghan appear. Swan Patian has given up on the 9 worlds. He is using the 3 heavenly beasts to control the void ocean to drown the 9 worlds. Follow me. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Xiao Yu's eyes widened. She could not believe that Swan Patian would do such a thing. I wanted to let you come back to understand Swan Potion's every move, but this bastard is too vicious. He actually used the destruction of the 9 worlds as the price to seize Mai and Xian Zhe's Yin-Yang world. Yi Qinghan shook his head helplessly. He could only wait for Xiao Yu to order the army to cooperate with him. After Xiao Yu woke up, she immediately mobilized the army to withdraw their divine power and took the initiative to cooperate with Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's Yin-Yang world was not fully developed yet. He could not force so many experts into the Yin-Yang world. He could only rely on them to cooperate. After a while, Yi Qinghan took away all the experts in the Saint City. These were the giant gods, the backbone of the Yin-Yang world. It would be a pity to give them up. At least they could be used now. As long as they were trained by Yan Ao for a few years, they would be able to display super strong battle strength. More than 80% of the giant gods in the entire 9 worlds were taken away by Yi Qinghan and Xian Zhe's Yin-Yang world. At this moment, the torrent broke through the great wasteland world, drowning and destroying the mountains and rivers. It roared out from the exit and rushed into the divine world of the Snow Empire. The beautiful mountains and rivers were no longer there. Everything returned to its original state. Swan Patian looked at the torrent rushing into the distance. He waved his hand to mobilize the copper coins and watched Yi Qinghan's every move clearly. However, at this moment, his face was full of doubts. Chapter 1587. Through the image transmitted by the copper coin, Swan Patian discovered that Yi Qinghan was drinking with Yan Ao outside the boundary tower. As for what they were talking about, he could only see the image but not the words. However, he could see that Yi Qinghan and Yan Ao were laughing as if the outcome was already decided. This bastard! Ever since Yan Ao returned, he has been acting weird. Nothing he does is normal. Swan Patian was burning with anger. He flicked his sleeves and shattered the mountains and rivers. Who cares what he does? Facing such an absolute advantage, are we still afraid of him overturning the heavens? Berserk Divine Dragon shouted angrily. Heaven-splitting Sword Tiger immediately agreed. That's right. Facing so many experts, a mere sector lord still has to be overcautious. Simply preposterous. Gold Heaven Black Tortoise also had a face of disdain as it mocked. Swan Patian, I think the one who is acting weird is not Huang but you. Are you scared of being tricked by them? The 3 heavenly beasts were not afraid of Yi Qinghan, but Swan Patian did not underestimate him. The 4 sector lords were even more afraid of him. Divine Lord Jing Tian snorted, since Huang dares to laugh and drink while waiting for us, he must have complete confidence. We should treat this seriously. You all are afraid of him, but this heavenly beast is not. The 3 heavenly beasts were extremely conceited. They did not want to stay any longer as they forcefully rode the waves and rushed towards the distance. Swan Patian looked at the 3 heavenly beasts and the 4 sector lords. He felt that no matter how powerful Yi Qinghan was, he would not be able to reverse the situation. Outside the boundary tower, Yi Qinghan and Yan Ao were indeed drinking and chatting about the current situation. Although they were not optimistic about themselves, they still had a smile on their faces. Swan Patian and the 4 sector lords might be afraid, but the 3 heavenly beasts will not be. Therefore, they will arrive at the boundary tower in 3 months. In these 3 months, we have to think of a way to make the 3 heavenly beasts retreat from the 9 worlds heaven and return to the void ocean. Yan Ao quickly deduced. Yi Qinghan nodded. If they wanted to win this fight, they would have to force the 3 heavenly beasts to retreat. This was a difficult fight, and as long as they won, all grudges would be gone with the wind. However, if they lost, there would be no more grudges. Even Patian would not allow them to live. In 3 months, it was almost unrealistic to cultivate beyond the realm of a sector lord. It was also impossible to give birth to more sector lords. It would take at least a few thousand years for someone from the insane sect to give birth to a sector lord. Just comprehending the realm of a sector lord would take some time. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth as he pondered. He looked at the boundary tower. The boundary tower was the barrier for their final battle. I will enter the boundary tower and see if I can convince the boundary tower. Yi Qinghan slowly got up and stepped into the first level of the boundary tower. Yan Ao followed closely behind. Looking at the space inside the boundary tower was like looking at another world. There was only a long staircase that spiraled upwards. It was daunting. The boundary tower had a spirit that guarded the 9 realms. Until now, only Yi Qinghan and Yan Yunbei had reached the 9th level. The only one who could take advantage of the boundary tower was Yan Yunbei. Yi Qinghan looked at the boundary tower and cupped his fists. He said in a deep voice, "The 9 realms are about to be destroyed. Everything will be flooded. I implore the boundary tower to lend me a hand and suppress Potin." Boom, boom. However, the boundary tower did not respond. It did not even give a basic response. It was like a dead object. The heavenly beasts bring disaster to the world. Shouldn't the boundary tower, which guards the 9 realms, save the world? Yi Qinghan frowned and questioned. Unfortunately, the boundary tower did not give any response. On the 9th level of the boundary tower, the boundary spirit grass shone brightly. It overlooked the world from the top of the tower and observed the 9 realms. However, it was only observing. It did not react even when the great wasteland world was completely submerged. Yan Ao took a deep breath and looked at the top of the boundary tower. He said firmly, "Let's climb the tower and go to the top. Maybe we can take the boundary spirit grass and turn the situation around." Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a sneer as he muttered to himself, "You forced me to do this." Yi Qinghan called Yan Yunbei out and said in a deep voice, "Let's climb the tower and try our best to take the boundary spirit grass." Yan Yunbei nodded firmly. If they could take the level 14 divine medicine, they might be able to take the boundary spirit grass as well. The 3 of them climbed side by side. They were very fast. The pressure was already bearable for them. After a while, they reached the 5th level. At that moment, specks of divine light appeared in the wild martial arts world. Strands of profound laws rushed from every corner of the world towards Yi Qinghan's soul. The profound laws of the yin-yang record. There's a reaction from the yin-yang record. Wait a moment. Yi Qinghan immediately stopped and said in shock. The supreme profound laws within the yin-yang profound record began to flow into Yi Qinghan's soul in an orderly manner. He didn't even have to spend time on comprehending them. Some laws were self-comprehending and profound mysteries were constantly appearing in his sea of consciousness. Yi Qinghan tentatively took another step forward. He found that the profound laws of the yin-yang record were even more profound. However, after being reorganized and changed, they were easier to comprehend. Zeng zeng zeng. Yi Qinghan climbed several steps and found that the entire wild martial arts world was filled with the profound laws of the yin-yang record and the order of the world. As time passed, Yi Qinghan found that his understanding of the 9-world sky had surpassed a level. So the boundary tower can help people cultivate the yin-yang record. Yi Qinghan was extremely excited as he led the 2 of them upwards. The higher they went, the more obvious the realm tower's ability to assist them became. The yin and yang in their bodies became much more intense, and that realm slowly became transcendent. They could deduce the changes of all things, and everything became logical. The 6th level. Heaven's might began to appear. However, it was quickly absorbed into the 9-world sky by Yi Qinghan. The wild martial arts world seemed unable to withstand such a terrifying external attack. In an instant, the world rumbled. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Heavy rain poured down. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to take the risk. He was afraid that the boundary tower would destroy his fragile world. He summoned Xianzhe and used Xianzhe's yin-yang world to resist the boundary tower. The 2 interlocked their fingers. Yin and yang were in harmony. The 2 of them were like one person. One represented yin and the other represented yang. Yin and yang reinforced and restrained each other. Xianzhe's understanding of the yin-yang record seemed to be much faster than Yi Qinghan. Perhaps it was because of his bloodline. This was the yin-yang record, something of the yin-yang Xian race. After reaching the 7th level, the yin-yang record on Yi Qinghan's body turned into an armor. The words on it rotated on his body. Each word represented a Dao. It was a perfect Dao. Xianzhe comprehended the yin-yang record through Yi Qinghan's soul. A large amount of ultimacy rushed into his sea of consciousness. He could use it with a wave of his hand. His strength was rapidly increasing. Yan Ao and Yan Yunbei followed the two of them this time. They actually couldn't feel the slightest bit of heaven's might. Even the heavenly punishment was swallowed by the yin-yang world. The four of them quickly reached the 8th level. The yin-yang record's reaction was even greater. Heaven has decreed, all laws follow. The words were engraved into the souls of the two of them. They understood more about the operation of the nine-world sky. Chapter 1588. Heaven has decreed, all laws follow. The divine armor evolved from the yin-yang record bloomed on Yi Qinghan's body. Every word carried a strong Tao and order, not allowing any creature to be presumptuous. Every word on the yin-yang record had its own purpose. Fate belongs to Bai Zhe, heavenly beasts stand in all directions. At this moment, Yi Qinghan felt as if he had been enlightened. A bolt of lightning exploded in his knowledge sea as if he had been enlightened. Everything was clear now. Order has its own Tao, those who go against it will be destroyed, those who follow it will be strong, and the fittest will be king. With every step Yi Qinghan took, his realm increased. Xianzhe's improvement was even more terrifying. With a wave of his hand, he controlled the order of yin and yang outside the boundary tower. With a thought, life and death were in his control. Nothing could escape from yin and yang. The four of them were rushing towards the 9th level of the 9 worlds. Yi Qinghan's thought flashed. Gu Qingyu, Jiang Jingtian, Tong Tong, and the other experts were summoned. Together with the 4 before them, there were a total of 9 existences. Yi Qinghan was experimenting. If a total of 9 people ascended to the 9th floor, what would happen to the realm pagoda? However, this was a story for later. Yi Qinghan had found a way to deal with the heavenly beasts. However, he still needed Xianzhe's help. Fate belongs to Bai Zhe, and the law is yin and yang. Xianzhe represented yin and yang. If someone violated the heavenly law, the law enforcers would naturally punish him. Since the yin-yang record said so, it could only mean that Xianzhe could suppress the heavenly beasts. Xianzhe and Yi Qinghan's souls intertwined. Xianzhe also understood that he was the key factor in the final battle. At this moment, his little face was flushed with excitement. He promised solemnly, "Senior, don't worry. I will definitely suppress the heavenly beasts back to the void ocean." Yi Qinghan smiled. Now that he had found a solution, he didn't have to worry anymore. Yan Yunbei and the others stood behind Yi Qinghan and followed him to the top of the boundary tower. However, the boundary tower didn't send them down. Yan Yunbei wanted to reach for the boundary spirit grass but was stopped by a gentle light outside the door. The heavens have decreed that the boundary spirit grass is the foundation of the great world. All living beings are not allowed to covet it. A soul fluctuation emanated from the top of the realm tower. Although it did not speak, it made everyone understand that the realm spirit grass would definitely be taken away. The corner of Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He asked in a deep voice, "You're finally reacting. I know you have a spirit. Are you going to watch the 9 worlds heaven be destroyed without doing anything?" "I'm not an enforcer. I can't participate in the war." He took out Yan Yunbei's divine medicine and gave it to him. He and Xianzhe returned to the 8th level to cultivate in seclusion. They didn't interfere with the realm tower's cultivation of Yan Yunbei and Lin Wutian. Divine light shot down from the top of the realm tower and enveloped Yan Yunbei and Lin Wutian. "Swallow the divine medicine. I will help you cultivate. Restrain your mind and merge with the realm tower to comprehend the big world." Soul fluctuations reverberated in their sea of consciousness. It was very clear. The two swallowed the divine medicine. Divine power rushed to the sky. The terrifying power rushed in all directions. Their bodies were almost crushed. However, the realm spirit grass above the realm tower shone with a gentle divine light. It enveloped the two and healed their wounds instantly. Lin Wutian and Yen Yunbei sensed the whole big world through the realm tower. It wasn't the human gathering place of the 9 worlds, nor was it any small world. The orbit of the world's order was in their sea of consciousness. Their realms rose instantly. At this moment, Swanpadian and the 3 heavenly beasts were riding the wind and breaking the waves. They drowned the snow country and the realm of gods, turning it into a vast ocean. The power of nature was boundless. It crushed all matter. The strong cultivators were also crushed to death. Tens of thousands of creatures were wailing and screaming. The creatures that weren't taken away were all swallowed. Their corpses were smashed by the waves. The sea was dyed red. Their bones were scattered in the sea. It was extremely terrifying. However, Swanpadian didn't care. The heavenly beasts didn't care either. They hated humans. At this moment, they were roaring excitedly. They set off huge waves, each stronger than the last. The 4 realm lords were blinded by their own interests. At this moment, they had a perverted smile. They were cruel and cold. Looking at the wailing of the creatures, they actually felt a trace of pleasure. In a different space sacred realm deep in the 9 worlds, Jian Bugui stepped out of the sacred realm. He couldn't help but be shocked when he saw the birds covering the sky. He flew up into the sky and finally realized that something was wrong. The sea would soon crash into this sacred realm. Chapter 1589. Jian Bugui held the no-return sword in his hand, his battle robe fluttering in the wind. Looking at the sea rushing towards the ultimate martial world, he was furious. Swanpadian, are you still human? What benefits do you have by destroying the 9 worlds' heaven? A crisp and majestic voice with a strong will, the no-return sword intense soared into the sky. Jian Bugui, don't think I don't know that you've been building the sword principle macro world all these years. Although it's fierce and powerful, it lacks flexibility. As long as you find its weakness, it's still vulnerable. You'd better not provoke me again, or I'll kill you. Swanpadian scolded impatiently. You're the one provoking me. I didn't want to interfere in your affairs, but you've challenged my bottom line time and time again. Now you want to destroy the 9 worlds' heaven. Are you not human? You see the world as ants. Jian Bugui shouted angrily, his right hand holding the sword hilt, wanting to draw it. However, Swanpadian interrupted Jian Bugui with disdain and said coldly, So what if I see the world as ants? Jian Bugui, do you think you can defy the heavens alone? Which one of the 3 heavenly beasts do you think I can defeat? Get lost. Bitch, how can you women speak in a war? Raging Dragon God scolded angrily, his dragon power swept out, causing the space in front to distort. A huge wave rushed towards Jian Bugui in the sky. The 3 heavenly beasts and Swanpadian showed their power at the same time. A majestic aura rushed towards Jian Bugui. The sword was out to destroy the enemy. Without seeing blood, the sword would not return. However, Jian Bugui was not a fool. Fighting against the 3 heavenly beasts and Swanpadian now, was he not courting death? Whoosh! Jian Bugui retreated, turning into a long rainbow and disappearing from everyone's sight. After half an hour, he returned to the Saint Realm and used his sword principle macro world to take away everyone in the Saint Realm. This group of people were mostly survivors of the wilderness, men and women, and now they had all become experts. All of them were sword principle experts. Jian Bugui's sword pierced through the Saint Realm, and he flew towards the boundary tower. Inside the realm pagoda, Yi Qinghan was diligently cultivating the yin-yang profound record. His soul was connected to Xian Zai's, so they could comprehend it separately. However, they could share the results. Yi Qinghan was helping Xian Zai comprehend yin and yang. If he wanted to win, he had to use yin and yang to enforce the law. Suppressing the 4 heavenly beasts, as long as the 4 heavenly beasts and the 4 realm lords didn't cause trouble, with Yen Ao leading the army to seal off the heaven's secret, it wasn't impossible to kill Swanpadian. Yen Ao was in the world of yin-yang, training his army of 10 million giant gods, 80% of the power of the 9 worlds heaven. Day after day, he didn't even have time to rest. Boom, boom, hum hum hum. A sword howl tore through the sky. The power of the sword was shocking. It was like a giant wave that swept through the mountains and rivers, destroying the world. Yi Qinghan woke up from his seclusion and immediately came out of the boundary tower. When he saw Jian Bugui running towards him from afar, he knew that she was finally not going to stand by and do nothing. The third sector lord. Yi Qinghan smiled. As long as Jian Bugui interfered with Yen Yunbei and Lin Wutian, they would be able to match Divine Lord Zheng Tian and the other veteran sector lords. Whoosh! Jian Bugui came over with his sword, his face full of anger. But, are you angry? Yi Qinghan asked with a faint smile. Back then, when Desolation saw the suffering of the 9 worlds, he wouldn't have smiled so casually. Jian Bugui said angrily. Yi Qinghan smiled and replied, back then, Jian Bugui didn't hate evil as much as you do now. Didn't he stand by and do nothing when he saw the great wilderness being destroyed? Of course, I have to thank you for taking away a batch of children, allowing the great wilderness to continue. Jian Bugui's breath stagnated and he couldn't refute. Back then, he wasn't a sector lord, he was just an ant. Even if he interfered, it would be useless. Now that he was comparable to a sector lord, he was still powerless because his opponent was different. I'm useless. Jian Bugui's beautiful face revealed a painful expression. He gripped the no-return sword and said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan didn't want to push the blame to Jian Bugui anymore. He sighed and said, it's not that you're useless and it's not that I don't want to help. I can't even protect myself now, how can I care about the lives of the 9 worlds? I'm already very merciful if I can save half of the 9 worlds. You have to understand that my great wilderness was destroyed by this group of people. Jian Bugui could only smile bitterly. He looked up at Yi Qinghan and asked in a low voice, is there really no other way? We have no way to leave the 9 worlds now. If the 9 worlds turns into the ocean of void, we will all die. No one will be spared. Yi Qinghan's face turned cold as he looked at the depths of the 9 worlds. Even if Su Apadian wanted to drown the entire 9 worlds, he wouldn't be able to do it in less than 3 months. 3 months might be the time for a desperate counterattack. Go to the 9th level of the Boundary Pagoda and see if there's a chance to cultivate your macro world to the extreme and enter the Sector Lord realm. As long as you can become the Sector Lord, there's still a chance. Yi Qinghan thought for a while and said in a low voice. Jian Bugui wielded his sword and walked away. Nowadays, a woman could reach her level without relying on talent or background. She was the only one. If it wasn't for Xianzhe's luck and her family background, she wouldn't have been able to reach this level. Yi Qinghan watched Jian Bugui step into the Boundary Pagoda and finally let out a breath. He looked at the depths of the 9 worlds again and saw heavy rain pouring down. The secrets of heaven couldn't be revealed. Even if Yi Qinghan cultivated the yin-yang mysterious record, he couldn't predict the secrets of heaven. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Yi Qinghan suddenly rushed into the depths. After a few days, he appeared at the border between the 6 beast worlds and the Wushuang world. Swoosh! Hum hum hum! Yi Qinghan activated his heavy berserk saber and slashed. Heaven and earth splitting. Boom! Hua hua hua! This saber slashed from the void and the saber light tore through the clouds. It moved from the north to the south and tore the boundary river between the 2 worlds apart. It was thousands of feet wide. Again! Yi Qinghan slashed down again and again, destroying the mountains and rivers. He forcefully tore the 6 beast worlds and the Wushuang world apart. A deep abyss appeared in front of him. It was unfathomably deep and was thousands of miles wide. It formed a boundless ocean. Boom boom boom. Hua hua hua. Countless cracks extended in all directions. Finally, they were filled with seawater and formed rivers. The boundary river disappeared and the bottom of the abyss couldn't be seen. Yi Qinghan jumped down and continued slashing until he reached the rocks in the earth's core. Any further and it would be endless lava. Xiao Yi Qinghan rushed into the sky and separated the 6 beast worlds from the Wushuang world. He could delay the heavenly beasts for at least a month. What he lacked now was time. However, time flew by quickly. 2 months passed in a hurry. Yan Yunbei walked out of the realm tower. His figure was ethereal. In the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Yi Qinghan. His understanding of space had reached the pinnacle. Assassinating a realm lord wasn't that difficult. I'm going to kill a sector lord? Yan Yunbei held his short saber excitedly and wanted to test his combat power. Chapter 1590. Yan Yunbei was looking forward to it, looking at Yi Qinghan excitedly. If he wanted to kill a realm lord, he would need Yi Qinghan's cooperation. Otherwise, if he was surrounded by the realm lord and the heavenly beasts, he would have no chance to escape. Yi Qinghan was also looking forward to it, but it was too dangerous to kill a realm lord. If he failed, he would be in trouble. Most importantly, he had to lure Swan Padian and the heavenly beasts away. If he couldn't escape, not even his bones would be left. After thinking for a while, Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go, let's try. If there's a chance, we'll kill a realm lord. Don't touch the heavenly beasts." The two of them looked at each other, their eyes flashing with brilliance. Xiao at the two tore the void and left. Their figures flashed and arrived at the supreme world. Yan Yunbei disappeared, leaving only Yi Qinghan to continue forward. At this moment, the snow country and the divine world were drowned by huge waves. They were crossing the world river and rushing towards the ultimate martial world. Yi Qinghan stepped into the supreme world and entered the divine martial world. Looking from afar, the endless mountains and rivers were being attacked by the waves. The salty air was filled with the smell of seawater. With the 8 experts gathered together, it was hard to assassinate them. Yi Qinghan had to separate the realm lord, the heavenly beasts and Swan Padian. Attracting the 3 heavenly beasts and Swan Padian was more dangerous than assassinating a realm lord. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and rushed out of the divine martial world. He sped along the border, absorbing the creatures in the world as he moved forward. 10 days later, both sides met at the border of the ultimate martial world and divine martial world. Swan Potion's killing intent burst out, his anger overflowing. "Huang, there's a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. There's no door to hell, but you barge in." Swan Padian shouted. "He's Huang? Then why are you still talking nonsense? Kill him." The violent divine dragon returned to its original form. Its long body crossed the endless mountains and rivers. Its dragon aura overflowed the sky, and huge waves rushed into the divine martial world. Roared at the dragon's roar shook the mountains and rivers. One could only see the dragon's head but not its might. Its pupils were like the scorching sun, releasing divine light. The dragon's horns seemed to be able to connect the heaven and earth. The heaven-splitting sword tiger and the gold sky black tortoise simultaneously revealed their true forms and charged towards Yi Qinghan's left and right sides. Whoosh! Calculating heaven splitter streaked across the sky. The 7 black copper coins took the lead, forming a triangular formation as they shot towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan pretended to break through to the left and charged at the heaven-splitting sword tiger. After several failed attacks, he immediately fled. He tore through space and time and disappeared without a trace. However, Lan Padian and the others were all super existences. They would be able to sense the slightest spatial fluctuation. Boom! The 3 heavenly beasts and Swan Padian chased after him, leaving behind only Heavenly Lord Jingtian and the other 3 realm lords. The flood crossed the boundary river and continued to approach the depths of the divine martial arts realm. The gigantic waves, which were hundreds of meters tall, could swallow everything. They could flatten mountains and destroy cities. Everywhere they passed, everything would be turned into ruins. The distance between righteous heaven divine lord and night demon god king was not large, but it was still close to 100 meters. This was to prevent the enemy from attacking. The 4 of them went with the flow, not knowing that danger was approaching. Yan Yunbei hid underground and felt the huge waves crashing into the ground, guessing the location of the 4 sector lords. Supreme Divine Marshal stood at the back. He did not think that there would be danger under the flood. Suddenly, boom! Yan Yunbei silently grabbed Supreme Divine Marshal's ankle and dragged him into the water. The short blade pierced through Supreme Divine Marshal's chest. Blood gushed out and dyed the flood red. Boom! Boom, 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 boom. Although Supreme Divine Marshal was attacked, he did not die. He struggled crazily at the bottom of the sea, causing huge waves to surge into the sky. Righteous Heaven Divine Lord and the others were shocked because Yen Yunbei and Supreme Divine Marshal were in the depths of the flood and could not attack. Supreme Divine Marshal was careless and could only struggle. He was dragged into the water by Yen Yunbei. His hands and legs were locked, and the short blade pierced through his chest and into his throat. Supreme Divine Marshal could not use his advantage. His hands and legs were clamped by Yen Yunbei. He could only roll and try to get rid of Yen Yunbei. Boom! When Yen Yunbei stabbed into Supreme Divine Marshal's throat, he suddenly let go of his hands. He flipped his body and rushed in front of Supreme Divine Marshal. He raised his wrist and stabbed the short blade into Supreme Divine Marshal's sea of consciousness. Boom! A strand of murderous aura rushed into Supreme Divine Marshal's sea of consciousness with lightning speed. Bang! Supreme Divine Marshal's soul let out a miserable shriek. His soul abandoned his body and rushed into the sky, escaping far away. Boom, boom, boom. Right at this moment, after Supreme Divine Marshal's soul escaped, Righteous Heaven Divine Lord and the others burst out crazily, causing the flood to split apart. A few sword lights pierced through Supreme Divine Marshal's body. Yen Yunbei's body twisted as he escaped from the depths of the flood. The sword light streaked past him and pierced through his divine armor. Supreme Divine Marshal's body was torn apart as he rushed out from the depths of the flood. The three realm lords had ugly expressions as they waved their divine swords to tear apart the flood. They launched a large-scale attack to force Yen Yunbei out of the water. However, after a long time, it was as if Yen Yunbei did not exist. Yen Yunbei had long fled. The corporeal body of the Divine Martial Saint had died mysteriously. The expressions of the three world overlords instantly turned unsightly. They flew up one after another and looked at the bottom of the flood with vigilance. There was only rolling seawater. There was no sign of any expert. What is that? Righteous Heaven Divine Lord shouted. Night Demon God King and Wutian Supreme looked at each other with goosebumps. They were not afraid of enemies, but they were afraid of enemies disappearing without a trace. It should be a human assassin. Wutian Supreme guessed. Do humans have Realm Lord level assassins? Night Demon God King screamed. Righteous Heaven Divine Lord shook his head. There were not even pseudo-Realm Lord level assassins. Very few people could reach the peak of this kind of unorthodox path, let alone Supreme Realm Lords. The three Realm Lords were frightened. They pulled out their swords and their sword chi soared into the sky. They gathered into a ray of light, wanting to attract Swanpadian and the three heavenly beasts back. At this moment in the Supreme Realm, the three heavenly beasts and Swanpadian, who were chasing Yi Qinghan, were shocked by the sword chi. They realized that the three Realm Lord level sword chi were gathering and seemed to be asking for help. Not good. We've been tricked. They're luring us away. Songpadian was furious. Seeing Yi Qinghan rushing towards the Realm Pagoda and occasionally turning back to provoke him, Songpadian didn't think any further and turned back to attack Divine Lord Jingtian. The three heavenly beasts were not resigned and were furious. Berserk Divine Dragon roared at Swanpadian. Are we not going to kill Desolation for 3 trash? Be careful. They are luring us away. We have to guard against them. We should not split up. Gold Heaven Black Tortoise reminded. Heaven Splitting Sword Tiger and Berserk Divine Dragon were helpless and could only retreat. At this moment, Yen Yunbei killed Supreme God Martial Saint's body. He did not advance recklessly and escaped with the help of the flood. Swanpadian rushed to the border of Divine Martial Realm and Ultimate Martial Realm. He looked at Supreme God Martial Saint's body with an ugly expression. He waved his hand and controlled the black copper coin to deduce heaven's secrets. The heaven and earth rumbled as Yen Yunbei's image appeared in Swan Potion's consciousness. Shwa. Swan Potion's eyes flashed coldly as he stared at the direction Yen Yunbei escaped. He smiled and roared hoarsely, "You have to look at the owner before beating a dog. You killed my man, don't even think about escaping today." Chapter 1591. Swan Patian was too confident in himself, but he didn't know that Yen Yunbei had already circled back to the Supreme Realm when he returned from the Supreme Realm. He chased him to the Supreme Realm and was only one realm away from the Realm Tower. Swan Patian had no choice but to slow down. Outside the Realm Tower, beside the Blessed Land, Yi Qinghan stood there and waited, afraid that something had happened to Yen Yunbei. However, Yen Yunbei appeared in his line of sight leisurely with a calm face. Failed? Yi Qinghan asked doubtfully. Yen Yunbei shrugged and replied faintly, "It's not considered a success. I only killed Supreme Divine Marshal's body. His soul left his body and he escaped." Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. Yen Yunbei didn't show any emotions on his face. If this happened to anyone, they would be emotional. However, his heartbeat didn't even change. This is considered a success. Supreme Divine Marshal won't be able to interfere in the final battle. Yi Qinghan laughed excitedly. There was one less realm lord to kill. Other than the heavenly beasts and Swan Patian, there were only 7 realm lords. Yi Qinghan killed 3 of them, so there were 4 left. Now that one was crippled, the remaining 3 were nothing to worry about. You go back first. They are about to step into the Supreme Realm. We don't have much time left. I'll make a trip back to the Great Wasteland to find that wild ghost. He will be a key figure in our victory. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. The air was filled with the smell of salty seawater. The 6 beast worlds were raining heavily. Thousands of beasts were roaring and fighting like trapped beasts. However, they didn't know that the entire 9-world sky was about to be submerged. Yen Yunbei entered the Realm Tower. Yi Qinghan rushed into the distance while Xianzhe sent all the troops, Yen Ao, and the insane sect out of the Yin-Yang world. Some of them were digging tunnels in the 6 beast worlds, preparing to build the last line of defense. Everyone from the crazy sect tried their best to reclaim this vast forest. They dug an endless passage along the gully to the north and south. The 6 animal worlds were divided into 2 and completely separated from the hinterland of the 9 worlds. Yi Qinghan dug a ravine connecting the 2 worlds. 10 days later, Swan Potion's group was trapped in the Supreme World. The flood poured into the ravine like a bottomless pit. The flood roared, but it was impossible to break through this chasm in a short period of time. There's no need to drown the entire 9 worlds. Let's join forces and kill him. With so many experts, can't we kill a Desolation Lord? Berserk Divine Dragon looked at the deep ravine and roared impatiently. Swan Patian used his pinnacle yin-yang secret technique to deduce the heavenly secrets. At this moment, he was the only one who could deduce the heavenly secrets. He saw a huge mountain range to the west of the 6 beast worlds being flattened by the army. There were more than 20 million soldiers. After being trained by Yen Ao for so long, it was equivalent to an army of hundreds of millions. Don't underestimate the power of those ants. Indeed, 100 million ants can't hurt us. However, after being trained by Yen Ao, 100 million ants can swallow any one of us. Song Patian insisted on filling up the ravine and swallowing the entire army alive. An army in the sea was not an army. No matter how powerful Yen Ao was, he could not defy the heavens. I don't believe it. Berserk Divine Dragon rebuked. Roar! Heaven-splitting sword tiger's huge claws shattered the ground. He roared in disdain, I don't believe it either. The golden heavenly black tortoise was even more disdainful. Even if there were 100 million ants, would they be able to break through its defense? The black tortoise's shell was harder than a boundary weapon. Even if Berserk Divine Dragon and Heaven-splitting sword tiger attacked it for 100 years, they might not be able to break it, let alone a group of ants? Swan Patian stared at the 3 heavenly beasts and reminded in a deep voice, we only have one chance. Once the first attack fails, 2 or 3 of us will fall. At that time, the gap between us will widen and we will no longer have the chance to kill the Desolate Lord. There is a Desolate Lord on the left and a Desolate Lord on the right. What is there to be afraid of? It is just a human. So what if he is strong? Berserk Divine Dragon rebuked in anger. Swan Potion's mouth twitched. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he stared at the 3 heavenly beasts. The three of them were not trash like Divine Lord Zhengtian. They were conceited and did not submit to anyone. At this moment, looking at the willful heavenly beasts, they suddenly had a feeling that they were going to lose. After all, Yi Qinghan's side was a solid piece of iron while their side was a plate of loose sand. The seven of them argued endlessly. The three heavenly beasts wanted to attack forcefully. However, Swan Putin, Divine Lord Zhengtian and the other realm lords wanted to fight steadily. They were not willing to take risks. We have plenty of time. At most, we will be able to defeat the desolate lord in a month. Why do we have to be greedy and advance prematurely? Swan Putin reminded in a deep voice. The three heavenly beasts were very impatient. Their arrogant attitude made Swan Putin, Divine Lord Zhengtian and the others very annoyed. However, they had no choice but to endure it. However, there was a seed of disharmony buried deep in their hearts. Once they found a breakthrough, this team would disband without attacking. At this moment, Yi Qinghan teleported and appeared in a flash. He rushed into the distance. The spatial fluctuation was negligible. At this moment, his control of space and the world had reached the pinnacle. Heaven's secrets surged as if it wanted to investigate the trajectory of the world's development. Dark clouds covered the sky. No one could see where the 9 worlds were going to go. Yi Qinghan shuttled back and forth in a different space like a stream of light. The distance of crossing a large province only took a few hours to cross a world. Half a day later, Yi Qinghan appeared at the entrance of the desolate lord. He watched as the torrential flood broke through the clouds. The entire desolate lord was submerged. The forest of despair in the west was blocked by 2 tall mountains on both sides. It became the last place of life. All the desolate beasts in the desolate lord rushed into the forest of despair. The forest of despair was in a mess. Yi Qinghan rushed into the forest of despair. His roar shook a million li. The forest of despair instantly became deathly silent. Xiao xiao xiao, Yi Qinghan shuttled back and forth in the forest. With the passage of time, he appeared in the foggy valley. Fellow Taoist, this Yi invites you to come out of the mountain and work together to deal with Swan Putin. His voice spread out and dispersed the foggy fog. Roared at a low roar that did not belong to a human came out from the valley. Following that, the savage ghost walked out. His face was still as terrifying as before. His rotten body emitted a foul stench. He was extremely vicious. Gee! The savage ghost's laughter was shrill and ear-piercing. His face was horrifying and his pair of fangs were extremely sinister. Congratulations, fellow Taoist, for controlling the temperature. I think the world is yours now. Yi Qinghan looked at the savage ghost and could not help but be shocked. This kind of poisonous creature was actually able to control the body of a human to cultivate. Furthermore, his intelligence was very high. Many thanks, many thanks. If not for you, I don't know how long I would have been imprisoned here. The savage ghost cupped his fists like a normal person and thanked him. You're welcome. Fellow Taoist, does our agreement still hold? Swan Putin is about to destroy the 9 worlds and flood the 9 worlds. I hope fellow Taoist can lend me a hand and kill him. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Chapter 1592. The temperature around Wild Ghost became constant. Yi Qinghan could clearly feel the change in temperature. It was similar to the temperature in the valley. He could leave this valley with his own control. Wild Ghost looked at Yi Qinghan. His eyes were gloomy and cold. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes and stared at Wild Ghost, waiting for his answer. However, Wild Ghost didn't disappoint him. He nodded and said, "Count me in. Please, lead the way." Yi Qinghan turned and rushed towards De Huang. The two were extremely fast. They tore through the void and teleported millions of miles. At the border between the 6 beast worlds and the Supreme Realm, the ravine was filled with water. Huge waves crashed as the 7 experts rushed towards the 6 beast worlds. As long as they passed through the 6 beast worlds, the water would flood the world tower and destroy everything. After passing through the ravine, there was a wide expanse of land in front of them. There was nothing in the way. The flood was like an army. Time passed quickly. They were getting closer and closer to the World Tower. Yi Qinghan and Wild Ghost had just reached the ultimate martial world. Both sides were advancing rapidly. Yen Ao had formed an army and was arranging the troops in front of the World Tower. They were waiting for the arrival of the Seven Supremes. At the border between the Six Beast Worlds and the World Tower, there was a huge ravine in front of them. Further into the Six Beast Worlds was a vast wasteland. The desert stretched on endlessly. Dense killing intent and heaven's might gathered. Swish, 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 swish. Dozens of figures rushed out from the World Tower and appeared at the front of the army. Lin Wutian had reached the Sector Lord realm. His cultivation had surpassed his master. Gu Qingyu was gratified. He was more excited to have such an existence than to have reached the Sector Lord realm himself. Jiang Jing, Li Feng and the rest were all envious. A sword roar rushed into the sky. The sword aura was like a rainbow, causing the heaven and earth to rumble. Jian Bugui held the divine sword in his hand and communicated with the heaven and earth. His sword Dao Great Circle had reached the Great Circle. The stone swords in his sword Dao Great Circle were like a forest, towering into the clouds. With a thought, the entire forest moved and emitted dense sword chi. There was only one small world in the Great World that was suitable for humans to live in. All the orphans of the Great Wilderness were here, about 1 million of them. Jian Bugui exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and stepped forward with his sword in hand. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Lin Wutian and stared into the depths with his big round eyes. Looking at the surging flood, he clenched the sword of no return tightly and trembled slightly. Where is the desolate lord? Jian Bugui looked around but couldn't find Yi Qinghan. He couldn't help but ask Yen Ao. Yen Ao shook his head. These days he had been training this army. How could he have the time to care about Yi Qinghan's whereabouts? Yen Yunbei replied, I went to the Great Wilderness and will be back soon. It's too late. They have already arrived, Jian Bugui said anxiously. Swan Padian and the 3 heavenly beasts had already rushed to the center of the 6 beast worlds. It took them several months to submerge the entire 9 worlds. In the 9 realms, except for a few small places that were obstructed by high mountains, the rest of the 9 realms had become a land of death. Right at that moment, Xianzhe also appeared at the front of the army. Her combat experience had increased by quite a bit, but facing heavenly beasts, she still did not know how to enforce the law. Boom, boom, boom. The flood rolled over and formed a waterfall that rushed into the chasm. It was unfathomable and could still block the heavenly beasts for a while. However, when the heavenly beasts saw the army, they might not be willing to wait any longer. Yen Ao waved the heaven-shaking dragon flag in his hand. It was as though a real dragon was dancing. The army followed the movement of the flag and changed their direction. I have said before that there are no ants in this world. Even if there are too many of them, they can still bite an expert to death. Yen Ao's words were impassioned and inspiring. Yes. The army beat their chests to boost their morale. We have no way out. We have to fight with our backs to the wall. If we fail, the 9 worlds will be completely finished. If we succeed, you will be the saviors of the 9 worlds. The flag in Yen Ao's hand flew out and stabbed into the chasm of the 6 beast worlds. He waved his hand and roared, beat the drums. Prepare for battle. Don't, buzz, buzz. The sound of the drums shook the heavens and the earth roared. It was so deafening that it felt like it was going to collapse. The aura swept over thousands of li and rushed into the depths of the 9 worlds. The sound of the drums made one's blood boil. It was like millions of war horses galloping. At this moment, Yen Yunbei left the battle zone as though he did not exist. Seeing Yen Ao standing at the highest point and commanding the army, Swan Potion's eyes flashed coldly. He sneered and roared, you guys delay desolation and the army first. Leave this Yen Ao to me. I want to skin him alive. After being played by Yen Ao for so many times, Swan Potion hated him to the bone. If he did not kill him, he would not be able to vent his anger. The 3 heavenly beasts snorted. They were extremely confident. With the 3 heavenly beasts working together, why would they need to stall for time and defeat them one by one? On the other side of the chasm, a stone tablet suddenly rose up. It was dozens of zhang tall and looked like a mountain. There were a few words carved on it that could steal one's soul. Swanpodian will be buried here. It was still the same few words. They were like dragons flying and phoenixes dancing. Swanpodian looked at the words on the stone tablet. His chest heaved up and down. He clenched his iron fists and his whole body was trembling. His killing intent was so dense that it covered the sky. Yen Ao, you son of a bitch. Today, I will make you regret being alive. Swanpodian roared. Yen Ao's handsome face revealed a confident smile. He looked at Swanpodian with disdain and said in a dignified manner, Swanpodian, you can't win against me today. Moreover, you will be buried here. Son of a bitch. Call Desolation out. Let's see where he can run to today. Swanpodian berated. Don't you know how to calculate? Calculate where Desolation is? Yen Ao asked indifferently. Swanpodian raised the corner of his mouth. He waved his hand and 7 black copper coins appeared. They revolved at the same time, forming a yin-yang 8 trigrams pattern. The image was dim and dark clouds covered the sky. A pair of big hands parted the clouds and the sun could be seen. Yi Qinghan's figure appeared in front of everyone. However, the image was not Yi Qinghan's real location. It was behind them. Swanpodian suddenly turned around. However, he did not see Yi Qinghan's figure. He frowned and did not understand what was going on. How is this possible? I have never failed in my deduction. Why is it this time? Swanpodian frowned and said to himself, why are you still wasting your breath? Get rid of this group of people. Even if Desolation has 3 heads and 6 arms, it will be hard for him to defy the heavens. Tyrant Dragon God roared impatiently. What? Xianzhe appeared in front of everyone. She stood beside Lin Wutian and stared at the 3 heavenly beasts. She pretended to be calm and said, the heavens have decreed that everything is natural. Fate belongs to Bai Zhe. The law is yin-yang. Heavenly beasts stand in all directions. I am the inheritor of the yin-yang Xian race, the law enforcer of the heavens. 3 heavenly beasts, you have done all kinds of evil. Today, I will punish you on behalf of the heavens. Jian Bugui moved his scabbard and stared at Righteous Divine Lord and the others behind Swanpodian. He scolded, Righteous Divine Lord, Night Demon Deity King, Supreme Overlord, do you really want to walk the same path as Swanpodian? Going against the heavens, going against the common people, this is shaking your foundation. The 3 heavenly beasts sneered and stared at Xianzhe with disdain. The 3 realm lords did not know what to do. They were in a dilemma. If they advanced, they would destroy the common people and devour the 9 worlds. If they retreated, would Yi Qinghan let them go? Swanpodian laughed and said to Xianzhe sarcastically, I am also a member of the yin-yang Xian race. The law enforcer is yin-yang. However, I did not find out how to enforce the law. What makes you think you can do it? Chapter 1593. Swanpodian laughed in disdain. Even he himself did not know how to enforce the law. How could Xianzhe know? The 3 heavenly beasts stomped on the stone steel and water poured into the gully. However, the gully was unfathomably deep, crossing the north and south sides of the 6-beast world. It was not much different from the previous obstacle. Boom! That the tyrant dragon god fiercely swung its tail and a huge tail fell from the sky, covering the sky and the sun. Swish! Yen Ao waved the flag and the army burst out with divine power. When the power gathered at a point in the sky, it emitted a divine light that bathed the world. Bang! The huge tail smashed on the barrier, shaking the sky and the earth. However, the tens of millions of soldiers inside the barrier did not move at all. Not a single one of them was injured. The tyrant dragon god roared. It could not believe that the power gathered by a group of ants could actually block the attack of a heavenly beast. Whoosh! That the heaven-splitting sword tiger stomped its 4 limbs. Its sad sword wings cut through the void and pierced the barrier. However, the barrier was like an indestructible divine cloth, very elastic. It only caved in a little before it quickly bounced back. Swan Patian frowned and said to himself doubtfully, "What kind of formation is this?" Yen Ao smiled and waved the flag in his hand again. The army began to move in an orderly manner, showing signs of attack. "Swan Patian, I said you won't win today. If the Desolate Lord does not appear, you won't be able to break through my eternal formation, not to mention that the Desolate Lord is digging a big hole for you to bury." Yen Ao said proudly, "Eternal formation? Did you learn it from your so-called eternal world?" Swan Patian raised the corner of his mouth and asked coldly. Yen Ao replied indifferently, "This is a formation that I created based on my dreams. I slept for countless years and learned these two secret techniques, eternal thought and eternal formation. As long as the heavens and earth don't destroy me, I won't die. As long as the heavens don't die, so be it." "Is that so?" Swan Patian mocked in disdain. "I don't know if the power of the 2,000 soldiers or the power of nature is stronger. Today, we will prove that the power of the void ocean and the power of 20 million giant gods, who is the real eternal and indestructible." After saying that, Swan Patian looked at the three heavenly beasts and said in a deep voice, "If we want to break the formation, we'll have to rely on the power of the void ocean. We'll have to rely on you guys." The three heavenly beasts were enraged. They were the true representatives of the heavens, and all living things were nothing but ants. Humans were even more so. Now that someone was blocking their way, how could they not be enraged? The flood surged, drowning the mountains and rivers, rushing towards the ravines. Attack, however, Yen Ao did not give them any time to react. The 10 million strong army unleashed their divine energy, and they worked together to attack with all their might. The divine energy gathered in the sky and formed a sharp arrow. It swept through the huge waves and charged towards the three heavenly beasts, Swan Patian and the others. Whoosh! Roar! Boom! The sharp arrow stirred up tens of thousands of waves and turned into a streak of divine radiance as it charged through the ravine and arrived in front of the 7 great experts. The aftermath was vast and mighty, and its imposing manner was terrifying. The sky dragon swung its tail and its huge tail smashed onto the tip of the arrow. Initially, the sky dragon thought that it would be able to shatter the arrow, but suddenly, the sky dragon god roared. Its body twisted and its huge tail was pierced through by the arrow. Howled up bang! The sky dragon god's body was sent flying by the shockwave and crashed into the flood, causing the ocean to flow backwards for thousands of miles. Even Swan Patian was forced to retreat from the huge dragon's flight. The flood was dyed red, and the huge dragon's huge body twisted and rolled, smashing the other heavenly beasts and the 3 realm lords into a mess. "Damned ant! How dare you injure the almighty heavenly beast?" The sky dragon god roared. Blood gushed out from its wound and instantly dyed the flood red. Just as lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, a cold light tore through the void and hit the night demon god king's back, piercing through his heart from the back. Bang! Puchita! The night demon god king screamed. His sword stabbed backwards, but he did not find any trace of the enemy. Puchi! Another cold light, and then blood dyed the 9 heavens. The night demon god king clutched his throat and flew backwards, falling into the flood. One of the realm lords did not even have time to resist before his body died. Swan Patian was stunned. He saw an afterimage streaking past the night demon god king. Its speed was too fast, and it did not even borrow the power of space. Die! Swan Patian was furious. He waved a black copper coin, which pierced through the void and caught up to Yen Yunbei in the blink of an eye. Yen Yunbei did not have time to kill the night demon god king's soul. His body sped backwards, and when he saw the copper coin in front of him, his body fell backwards and fell into the chasm. The copper coin pierced through space and crashed into the eternal great array. The existence of the Tao through assassination would definitely kill. The blade light destroyed the life force of the body, and a supreme being would die without knowing who killed him. Whoosh! Yen Yunbei fell into the deep chasm and sped towards the distance, using the flood to hide in the void. Whoosh! 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 Lin Wutian followed closely with his sword. The sword light tore through space and attacked the enemy on the other side of the chasm. The destructive sword Qi was filled with coldness and killing intent. The solitary sword Dao was at its peak, extremely sharp. Jian Bugue exploded with sword Qi. 10,000 swords shot out, and the sword rain was like a rainbow. The sword would not return until it sealed the throat. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sword light rushed into the enemy group. Together with Lin Wutian, they disrupted the enemy's formation again. Boom. Swan Padian was furious. The 7 copper coins shot out and shattered all the sword light. However, the aftermath was blocked by the golden heavenly black tortoise. The sharp sword Qi could not tear its shell apart. Yen Ao waved the flag again. The army and the heroes of the Kuang sect cooperated and attacked the golden heavenly black tortoise with a thunderous rage. Boom! Whooshed up, the divine spear pierced through space and time, creating a roar. It shook the heavens and shattered everything. A chasm was formed on the ground, and huge waves soared into the sky, forming a water curtain. Bang! The divine spear hit the shell of the golden heavenly black tortoise. The divine tortoise was knocked into the depths of the flood, and the earth cracked. However, the golden heavenly black tortoise quickly emerged from the water. The divine spear did not cause any fatal damage to it. Yen Ao and the others narrowed their eyes. They did not expect the tortoise shell to be so difficult to break. The eternal great array and the tortoise shell of the golden heavenly black tortoise were impenetrable. Both sides were equally matched. Retreat. Use water to attack. Swan Potion's lips curled up. The 3 heavenly beasts mobilized the sea water to rush into the chasm, trying to drown the remaining land. The sea water became more ferocious. It reached a height of 100 feet. The chasm was about to be filled by the sea water. At this moment, Yi Qinghan arrived late. While Swan Padian was not paying attention, he rushed across the chasm and appeared on the opposite side of the wild ghost. Yi Qinghan looked at the surging flood and said, "Swan Padian, I'm afraid you don't have enough water." Chapter 1594. Yi Qinghan stepped to the front of the army and stood at the highest point of the ravine. Veins popped out all over his body as his dragon blood boiled. His blood vessels expanded and his blood cells began to operate at the same time. Dragon transformation style. Yi Qinghan's body twisted and turned into a dragon. He soared into the sky and stood above the army. His dragon scales shone with golden light. His 5 claws emitted golden light. His dragon horns reached the heaven and earth. His body coiled and his dragon head looked down at the 9 worlds. Roared. Yi Qinghan roared towards the sky, causing space to ripple and time to distort. Swan Padian, today you and I will fight to the death. You live and I die. You die and I live forever. The 9 worlds will return to one. There will be no more 9 worlds. The dragon's roar shook the mountains and rivers. The dragon's might was even greater than the tyrant divine dragons. It was as if he was the true heavenly beast divine dragon, and not the tyrant divine dragon. Swan Padian was also furious to the extreme. A toy actually wanted to kill its master. Intolerable. Huang, I granted you life and death in your previous life. In this life, I can also grant you death. If I want to kill you, even the heavens cannot stop me. Swan Padian roared. The tyrant divine dragon roared angrily. The dragon's might was challenged. It soared into the sky and roared at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like lightning. He stared at the tyrant divine dragon and angrily rebuked. The 4 great heavenly beasts should follow the mandate of heaven and protect the 4 directions. You all destroyed the 9 worlds and regarded the common people as ants. You should be beheaded. Ants? What bullshit mandate of heaven? I was born free and should not be bound. I represent the mandate of heaven. My orders are the mandate of heaven. Huang, today you must die. Hua, the tyrant divine dragon swept through thousands of miles of mountains and rivers. The flood behind him overflowed and pressed towards the ravine. It wanted to fill up the ravine. Devour the heavens. Hua, the coiling dragon sucked the water. The huge waves were all absorbed by Yi Qinghan. A huge river rushed from the ground to the 9 heavens and poured towards Yi Qinghan's wild martial world. Boom boom boom. On a vast continent of the wild martial great world, a gigantic ocean appeared, capable of containing an endless amount of seawater. One mobilized the seawater of the void ocean to attack the 9 worlds, while the other mobilized his own world to absorb the seawater. Both of them wanted to control the world. Since you want to suck, I'll let you suck as much as you want. I will destroy your world with the ocean of nothingness. Whoosh! The golden heavenly black tortoise flew into the sky and also mobilized the seawater of the ocean of nothingness to irrigate this place. The huge waves destroyed everything, and the tall mountains were flattened. The flood came wave after wave. Whoosh whoosh whooshed at the heaven-splitting sword tiger, the gold sky black tortoise, and the tyrant god dragon stood side by side. Fortunately, the heaven-protecting Qilin had not come. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan's world would not be able to withstand such an impact. Xianzhe soared into the sky and sat on the dragon's head. He held the dragon's horn and fused with Yi Qinghan's soul. Yi Qinghan's soul controlled 2 worlds. Today, I want to see if the void ocean is truly vast and boundless. Yi Qinghan glared at the 3 heavenly beasts. The rolling heavenly might crushed the earth, and dense killing intent filled 10,000 miles. Yan Yunbei still did not appear. However, the remaining 2 world overlords, Righteous Heaven Divine Lord and Honorable Supreme, were afraid. The 2 of them stood back to back beside Swan Patin, afraid that they would be ambushed again. Bush, 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 bush. Yen Ao waved the flag and mobilized the army. The formation changed again, and the army became fierce like a ferocious tiger that was about to go berserk. Swan Patin frowned. He had never seen Yen Ao's formation before. It was not something from this world. It had already transcended. Yen Ao had been in hibernation for countless years, and he could not control his body. However, he had been immersed in his cultivation in the dream. His soul development had probably reached an abnormal level. If Yi Qinghan's soul development had reached 50%, and Swan Potion's brain development had reached 60%, then Yen Ao's soul development had reached 99%. Swan Patian and the other 2 world overlords looked at each other, indicating that they should prepare to attack. He then stretched out his hands, and 7 copper coins floated in the air, waiting for an opportunity to attack. The dragon flag danced, and the army's aura was magnificent. The power gathered, and the divine sword was in the air. The flag was sent forward, and the divine sword was unsheathed, breaking through the void. The divine sword reached the other side of the chasm in the blink of an eye. Boom! The 7 black copper coins turned into the 8 trigrams yin-yang diagram, spinning in the air like reincarnation. The divine sword rushed into reincarnation, and the trajectory of the divine sword was actually changed. It rushed into the void and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. The light of a firefly dares to compete with the brilliance of the sun and moon. Swan Patian mocked disdainfully. Yen Ao's expression did not change, and he continued to wave the flag. The army was mobilized as usual, but this time, Jian Bugui and Lin Wutian joined the action. Yan Yunbei was still nowhere to be found. The 3 heavenly beasts roared, and the 3 of them mobilized the void ocean. Not only did the flood not fill up the chasm, but the water level was also decreasing. The water level behind them was also decreasing. The great worlds in Yi Qinghan and Xianzhe's consciousness had been turned into a mess by the flood. However, they were all barren lands that had yet to be developed. There weren't even any trees, so the loss was still bearable. Boom, boom, boom. Huge waves crashed in the world. Yi Qinghan transformed into a giant dragon that wanted to swallow the sky. The coiling dragon sucked in the water, and the end of the 9 worlds formed a spectacular scene. Dark clouds rolled in the sky, and lightning flashed. Yi Qinghan and Xianzhe appeared and formed a huge 8 trigrams yin-yang diagram. Yi Qinghan's record of yin-yang reacted, and it kept trying to attack the divine light outwards, and its power shrouded thousands of miles. The 3 heavenly beasts' expressions changed, and they roared in unison, record of yin-yang. Obviously, the 3 heavenly beasts were afraid of the record of yin-yang. Yi Qinghan saw it clearly. his body twisted, and he transformed into his original form. He interlocked his fingers with Xianzhe, and the 8 trigrams yin-yang diagram's power was even more terrifying. The record of yin-yang rushed out of his body, and the runes were captivating. It transformed into the only copy of the record of yin-yang. The square record of yin-yang shone with divine light, and it covered the 3 heavenly beasts. Heaven has decreed, and all laws follow. Fate belongs to Bai Zhe. The words suppressed the earth, and its power was getting stronger, as if it wanted to suppress the entire 9 worlds. The law of yin and yang. It was not referring to the person, but the record of yin-yang. The raging heavenly dragon was shocked, and it rolled up a huge flood to escape into the depths of the 9 worlds. The golden heavenly black tortoise and the heaven-splitting sword tiger did not dare to challenge the authority of the law of yin and yang, and they decisively abandoned Swanpadian. Swanpadian saw the 3 heavenly beasts escaping, and he decisively retreated. Lord Jingtian and the Honorable Supreme's expressions changed, and their speed was obviously not as fast as Swanpadian and the 3 heavenly beasts. Just as they wanted to retreat, they were stopped by Lin Wutian and Jian Bugui. Swoosh, swoosh. A few rays of cold light appeared in the sky, and they blocked the 2 Honorable Supreme from behind. 3 realm lords against 2 Honorable Supreme, and the earth cracked. Swanpine, you old man, die. Wild Ghost bared his fangs and brandished his claws, and he attacked from the side. His sharp claws tore through the shackles, and his fangs pierced through the void, and he attacked Swan Potion's back. Yi Qinghan let go of Xianzhe, and used the Great Space Shift, and appeared on Swan Potion's left side, and he attacked wildly, cutting through time and space. Boom boom boom. Swoosh. Chapter 1595. Wild Ghoul and Yi Qinghan attacked Swanpadian at the same time, one from the left and one from the back. Their claws were as sharp as berserk, and they carried a poison that could destroy all living things. Swanpadian could only run upwards. Whoosh! Swanpadian rose from the ground and threw 7 copper coins at Yi Qinghan and the Wild Ghost. His eyes were filled with doubt as he didn't recognize the origin of this wild ghost. Boom! The wild man reached out and grabbed the 2 copper coins. The last one rushed into his body, but his body was like sticky mud. It couldn't go in, nor could it come out. The copper coin was stuck in his body. The wild ghost man roared, and a cloud of white fog rushed into the sky, wanting to swallow Swanpadian. Boom! Yi Qinghan raised his saber and growled, 9th / destruction, whoosh! The saber light shattered the void, and the sound of space being torn apart resounded through the sky. The white mist and the saber radiance flashed and disappeared at an extremely fast speed. Swanpadian felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't dare to touch the white mist, nor did he want to be held back by Yi Qinghan. He tore open the void and fled into the distance. Yi Qinghan and the wild ogre chased after him. This physical body is mine. I want him alive. Wild ogre roared at Yi Qinghan as he ran. Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't think that the wild ghost would treat Swanpadian as prey. After thinking about it for a moment, he didn't refuse and just chased after him. The 3 of them used stellar transposition, tearing through the clouds of the 9 realms. They trampled on the flood, causing the seawater to flow in reverse. They all rushed back along the same path they came from. Calculating the heavens. You still want to escape? Shouldn't today's decisive battle be decided by you? Yi Qinghan's speed was comparable to lightning, but he couldn't catch up to Padian at all. This guy's cultivation had reached the peak of perfection. Songpadian let out a muffled groan. He was very wary of the wild ghost people's poison, so he turned around and rushed towards the floating island. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 3 of them chased each other, occasionally launching attacks that destroyed the tall mountains and ancient trees. It was a complete mess. Behind them, Lin Wutian and Jian Bugui were holding back the 2 sector lords. However, the 2 sector lords were fighting with their lives on the line. They had even activated the worlds in their sea of consciousness and smashed the ground. Even Yen Yunbei couldn't get close to them, let alone the others. As the flood receded, the army started to surround the 5 sector lords from afar. The army's movements were strange and messy, but every step they took contained the simplicity of the great Tao. The dragon flag swayed, the mountains and rivers danced, the spirit of the army roared, and the sky sank. Barrier. Inverted triangle formation. Seal the 9 heavens. Yen Ao roared furiously. The army cooperated as if they were a single entity. The army formed an isosceles inverted triangle, and the inverted triangles formed a circle. The enchantment soared into the sky, forming a cone that rushed upwards, sealing the 2 sector lords in the enchantment. Jian Bugui's sword aura was like a roaming dragon, while Lin Wutian's sword aura was like a ferocious tiger coming out of the mountain, or a ferocious wolf approaching its head. Overlooking all living beings, the collision between worlds was extremely fierce. However, Divine Lord Jing Tian and Honorable Supreme were both veteran honorables. Not only were they not at a disadvantage, they were even in the limelight. Yen Yunbei was waiting for an opportunity. At this moment, the enchantment was completed. The 2 sector lords were panicking and were gradually suppressed by Jian Bugui and Lin Wugan. Divine Lord Jing Tian, Honorable Supreme, as long as you are willing to put down your weapons and turn over a new leaf and help us kill Tsongpatin, I will spare your lives. Jian Bugui said. Sorry, you can't. Yen Ao's eyes flashed coldly as he rejected. As long as the 2 sector lords entered the enchantment, he wouldn't have a chance to escape. Even if Jian Bugui betrayed him now, it would still be futile. You forced me. Boom. A star appeared in the sky. It didn't look big, but the space inside wasn't smaller than the 9 worlds. One could imagine how dense it was and how much more destructive it was than a world weapon. Boom! Another star appeared. It shone so brightly that the army couldn't open their eyes. Yen Ao narrowed his eyes as he watched the 2 sector lords mobilizing their worlds to fight to the death. He sneered and said, anyone can live, but the 2 of you and Tsongpatin must die. Back then you killed my soldiers. This year I will take your lives. With that, Yen Ao waved his flag and said, all soldiers, close your eyes and wait for orders. Divine Lord Jing Tian glared at Yen Ao and looked at the army. Many of them were from their world. He immediately scolded, sons of the honorable realm, are you trying to kill your ancestors? Unseen Realm's Honorable Wutian also roared, all soldiers of the Unseen Realm listen to my orders. Kill Yen Ao for me. The army didn't move at all. No one listened to the 2 sector lords. Ha! Yen Ao laughed maniacally and scolded, when you destroyed the 9 worlds, why didn't you think that they were your people? Their wives, children, and parents were drowned by you and crushed by the flood. When they begged for their lives, were you merciful? Back then you gave up on them. You should have been prepared to be abandoned too. The army's anger soared as they stared at the 2 sector lords with killing intent. Kill! The army's roar shook the 9 heavens. The aura of the 2 sector lords collapsed. They were panicking and regretting. Unfortunately, it was too late. Get ready! Yen Ao raised his hand and the dragon flag soared into the sky. Jian Bugui, Dao friend Wutian, please leave. Yen Ao's eyes flashed as he wanted to kill the 2 sector lords. Jian Bugui said softly, now is the time when we need people. If the 2 sector lords are willing to turn back and redeem themselves, I believe the people of the 9 worlds will not hate you. Divine Lord Jing Tian laughed bitterly and replied hoarsely, is Dao friend Yen Ao willing to let us turn back? Is Desolate Lord willing to let us turn back? If he was willing back then, why would we follow Tsongpatin? Honorable Wutian also had a helpless expression. Who didn't want to live? Moreover, they were sector lords. Unfortunately, Yen Ao's face was resolute. Back then, countless soldiers who died were like brothers to him. Dragon's resentment, Feng Yang, Zhu, which one of them wasn't clear in his mind. They would die as miserably as they had died, or even more miserably than them. Repaying evil with good, how do you repay good? Yen Ao asked Jian Bugui and the 2 sector lords coldly. Lin Wutian had retreated. Once Jian Bugui retreated, the 2 sector lords would suffer a thunderous attack. Their world could be destroyed by this 20 million army. Yen Ao was not a paper spear after all. Ling Yen could not be compared to him. Yenao, I know that you are angry. But right now, Swanpadian might come back at any moment. One more world overlord means one more chance of victory. If we forget our grudges, we can reduce the number of deaths. What's wrong with that? Jian Bugue argued strongly. Yen Ao snorted and was unwilling to say more. The people of Crazy Sect stood firmly on his side. Presumably, Yi Qinghan would not let the two of them live when he returned. I'll give you all a chance. Give up resisting now and wait for the Desolate Lord to come back and make a decision. If you really don't want to kill each other, you can gamble with your lives. If you lose, you die. If you win, you live. Yen Ao said coldly. Chapter 1596. Yen Ao gave an ultimatum. Divine Lord Righteous Heaven and Wutian Prime were silent for a long time. They could only take a gamble. They kept their worlds, put down their divine swords and chose to compromise. Jian Bugue exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He kept the two's world and sealed their worlds. A realm lord without a world was just a perfect realm expert and not a prime. The end of the world returned to peace. The flood slowly receded, leaving behind a ground full of mud. Corpses were piled up like mountains. Even the mountain range was washed away. Yen Ao mobilized the army to clean up the mess and prevent the outbreak of the plague. A few days later, Yi Qinghan and Wild Ghost returned without any results. Even though they had monstrous battle power, they were unable to chase down an existence of the same level. Outside the paradise, Yen Ao, Jian Bugue, Huang Peng and the rest of the people from back then were all gathered here to discuss the final fate of the two realm lords. Yi Qinghan had a cold expression. Deep in his heart, he wanted to kill the two of them 10,000 times. However, it would be a waste to kill them like this. You have done so much evil. If I don't kill you, I will be letting down the 9 worlds and the billions of people in the great desolate world. Yi Qinghan's voice was cold. It was as though he had sentenced the two realm lords to death. Divine Lord Righteous Heaven and Wutian Prime's expression changed. They secretly regretted not giving up. However, Yi Qinghan changed the topic and said seriously, the two of you are realm lords. If you are unable to contribute to the peace of the 9 worlds, it will be the real loss of the 9 worlds. Divine Lord Righteous Heaven was overjoyed when he heard this. He pretended to be extremely regretful and said, Desolate Lord, back then, we acted against you because of Swan Potion's provocation. This time, if you are a great person, we will definitely help you take down Swanpadian. Return the 9 worlds to a peaceful world. That's right. That's right. Desolate Lord, we all came from the same era. We were once frivolous when we were young. For the sake of love, we were schemed against by the heavens. As long as you are willing to forget the past, we will definitely not disappoint you. Wutian's supremacy repeatedly begged for mercy. Yen Ao looked at Yi Qinghan's expression and knew that Yi Qinghan wanted to make use of the two of them. He went with the flow and said, Since the Desolate Lord has said so, as a general, I will spare your lives. As long as you cooperate with us to kill Swanpadian, the 9-world sky will be yours. The two of them were overjoyed. After looking at each other, they hurriedly nodded their heads like chickens pecking at rice. Jian Bugue exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. This matter could finally be resolved perfectly. In her eyes, revenge breeds revenge. However, she did not know that in the eyes of Yi Qinghan and Yen Ao, enemies must be eradicated. The flood receded, leaving behind a mess. The corpses of sea beasts were strewn all over the place, piled up together with human corpses. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and set the corpses on fire. Such a scene was even crueler than hell. Moreover, the entire 9-world sky was like this. The 9-world sky had developed for countless years and displayed such glory. However, it was destroyed in a single day. Everyone felt it was a pity, even the wild ghoul felt it was a pity. He licked his lips and said eerily, What a pity, all the energy was wasted. Yi Qinghan knew that this guy could not stay for long. Once Swanpadian died, he had to die as well. Otherwise, the 9-world sky would never have peace. The army was quickly cleaning up. However, after cleaning up for dozens of years, they only managed to clean up 1 world. After a few hundred years, the army finally pushed into the divine martial realm. Yi Qinghan and the others set up camp in the divine martial realm. Swanpadian seemed to have disappeared. No one knew if he was alive or dead. The group of people discussed for several years but could not find a better way. Yen Ao sat alone on the city wall of the divine martial realm. He looked at the sky and pondered about how to lure Swanpadian out. Yi Qinghan quietly appeared beside Yen Ao and sat next to him. He also looked at the sky helplessly. His deep eyes were like endless mountains and rivers. He could not see the end of it. Swanpadian is an old fox. He is not moved by the most perfect world. He is not willing to appear even after we placed Xianzhe on the floating island. Could it be that he wants to give up? Yi Qinghan frowned and asked. Yen Ao shook his head with certainty and said, "He won't. Swanpadian is someone who would do anything to achieve his goal. He even did not hesitate to send you into the cycle of reincarnation. After spending so much time, how could he give up in the end?" Yi Qinghan also understood. However, he could not find a better way to lure Swanpadian out. This kind of person is like a venomous snake. He can hide for a long time just to kill us in one strike. He is exhausting our patience, exhausting us until we believe that he won't appear again. He will only appear when our defense is relaxed. If he is really smart, he will break apart our alliance from the inside. The army and the sector lords are all his targets. Yen Ao analyzed in a low voice. Yi Qinghan was silent. He looked at the gradually developing 9 worlds heavens. Tribes, villages, sects, clans, each and every one of them were established. However, he felt sad in his heart. What he had lost was lost in the end. For example, Emperor Yi, Bai Zhe, Bai Shaoxing who died for him, and the great desolation of the past. Things have changed with the passage of time. Things have remained the same, but people have changed. He actually could not find a sense of belonging in the 9 worlds heavens. He has become an enemy that we cannot see or touch. Yi Qinghan sighed and said, "Everything returned to peace. A few hundred years was enough for the 9 worlds heavens to regain its peace. Everything returned to how it was in the past. However, these people were no longer separated by race. This calamity taught them to respect each other and learn how to communicate with each other. Actually, it is not impossible to lure Swanpadian out. The method is very simple." At this moment, the divine bird crawled out and said in a bored tone. Yi Qinghan and Yen Ao's eyes flashed. They asked in unison, "How? You don't know the true face of Mount Lu. You are a dignified military saint. You can't even think of this. Failure, failure." The divine bird raised its head and said mysteriously. Yen Ao's black pupils flashed with a strange light. The corner of his mouth rose as he asked with a smile, "What is the divine bird's opinion?" "My opinion is..." The divine bird was very wretched. He looked in the direction of the world tower and laughed sinisterly. "The one who tied the bell should untie it. Why does Swanpadian want the most perfect world? Because he wants to live forever. He wants to leave the 9 worlds heavens that binds him. He has an even greater ambition, which is the outside world. As long as we find the entrance to the outside world, he will naturally think of a way to enter the outside world. At that time, won't he automatically deliver himself to us?" The divine bird laughed sinisterly. Yi Qinghan and Yen Ao looked at each other in surprise. Because they were in the 9 worlds heavens, their thoughts had not expanded beyond the 9 worlds heavens. They did not expect a wretched parrot to come up with such a plan. This divine bird is gifted with great wisdom. It is normal for me to come up with such a plan. You are all mortals. The divine bird looked disdainfully at everyone. It raised its head proudly and said in high spirits, "Where do we find the entrance to the outside world?" Yi Qinghan asked in return, who knew that the divine bird would roll its eyes and reply with an attitude of a child who could not be taught. "You ask me everything. Can't you think for yourself? If I knew where the entrance to the outside world was, I would have fled long ago." Chapter 1597. The entrance to the outer realm and the exit to the 9 worlds didn't seem to exist. Otherwise, it would have been discovered long ago. Yi Qinghan licked his teeth. The eerie white light scared the divine bird so much that its feathers stood on end. He quickly suggested, "We can ask the boundary tower. That thing has existed for countless eras. It was already here when the 9 worlds were formed. It also has its own soul. It definitely knows the entrance to the outer realm." Yi Qinghan and Yan Ao looked at each other and smiled. They left the crowd behind and rushed to the boundary tower. The boundary tower was still standing. The 9 worlds had changed a few times, but it was the only one that was eternal. Yi Qinghan and Yan Ao entered the boundary tower. This time, the boundary tower gave them face and didn't kick them out. They calmly walked to the top of the 9th floor and stared at the boundary spirit grass at the top of the tower. "Where is the exit to the 9 worlds?" Yi Qinghan asked directly. A soul wave came from the boundary tower and it replied with certainty, "There is no outer realm and no exit." "Don't lie to me," Yi Qinghan said in a serious tone. "I once accidentally obtained a secret technique from the outer realm. It was incompatible with the origin power of the 9 worlds. Its power was obviously of a higher level than the world power of the 9 worlds. If there is no outer realm, where did that secret technique come from?" The boundary tower was silent and didn't want to answer. Yi Qinghan frowned and looked at the boundary spirit grass. He suspected that the boundary tower's soul was connected to it. He reminded in a low voice, "I have to find the exit and lure Swanpatian here. Only then can I kill him. Besides, Swanpatian and I are already transcendental in the 9 worlds. If you force us to stay here, this world will collapse sooner or later. You can't destroy the 9 worlds. Everything is predestined." The boundary tower sent a soul wave and gave a very certain answer. Yi Qinghan was somewhat dissatisfied and said angrily, "Just do me a favor and help me kill Swanpatian. I did you such a big favor. Can't I repay you in return? The heavens have decreed that all laws will follow naturally." The boundary tower replied calmly, "Fuck off. Do you believe that I won't tear you apart?" Yi Qinghan rebuked angrily. "Realm Tower. My soul has left the 9 realms heaven and entered the eternal world. No one knows that place better than me. It is indeed a transcendent place. Some people there can really live forever. So you don't have to lie to us and say that there is no outer realm. Even Patian believes that there is an outer realm. As long as you give us the entrance to the outer realm, we will not let anyone leave the 9 realms heaven after killing Patian. I guess your destiny is to guard the 9 realms heaven and let the people of this world stay here. What I don't understand is why the people of the 9 realms heaven can't leave the 9 realms heaven." Yan Ao furrowed his brows. Only now did he remember this matter. Back then, even when his soul wandered outside the world, he did not pay attention to this matter. However, the realm tower did not reply. It merely replied coldly, "There is no outer realm. There is no exit." This thing is probably an idiot. Maybe it is a machine that has been set by someone and only knows how to do things according to the rules. It is commonly known as a brainless thing. Instead of communicating with it, you might as well ask this divine bird. The divine bird stood on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and sneered disdainfully. "You are the idiot. A trash bird dares to question the dignity of the realm tower." A soul fluctuation with anger rushed towards the 3 of them. Oh, it actually knows how to be angry. Is it not an idiot? Does it really know where the exit to the 9 realms heaven is? The divine bird looked at Yi Qinghan, pretending to be puzzled, as if it was asking, "You are the idiot. Stupid bird, if you dare to talk nonsense again, I will send you into the cycle of reincarnation. You will spend eternity in the cycle of reincarnation." The soul fluctuation was somewhat abnormal. The divine bird shrank back under the pressure. "Did I say something wrong? You don't know anything. You only know that it is the will of the heavens and that everything is natural. If you are not a machine that has been set to automatically recover, then what are you?" The divine bird gathered its courage and retorted angrily. "Who said I don't know anything? You are the descendants of sinners. You will spend eternity in the 9 realms heaven, surrounded by seawater. No one will be able to leave. This divine tower saved you purely out of compassion. You should be left to fend for yourselves." The realm tower roared, and the pressure grew stronger. Yi Qinghan and Yen Ao's pupils shrank. They looked at each other and knew what the other was thinking. Tap, tap, tap. Yi Qinghan and Yen Ao left the 9th floor of the realm tower and returned outside. They exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. According to the realm tower, our ancestors were exiled sinners? Yi Qinghan frowned and looked at Yen Ao. He asked in a low voice, "Didn't you hear any rumors about the 9 realms heaven when your soul was roaming outside? Damn, this divine bird's bloodline is so noble. I was actually born in the homeland of sinners in a barbaric land. This trash realm tower must be talking nonsense. Let's tear it down. It guards the 9 realms heaven. The entrance to the outside world is probably inside the realm tower." The divine bird angrily rebuked. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He felt that the divine bird was right. "I think the divine bird is right. The exit is inside the realm tower," Yen Ao said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan looked at the realm tower and paced back and forth. The realm tower was placed here for a purpose. Perhaps the exit was really here. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Tell the Kuang sect that there's an exit to the 9 realms heaven in the realm tower and let them spread it unintentionally. I don't believe that you Padian won't be tempted. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up, revealing a trace of killing intent. Let's tear down the realm tower? The divine bird excitedly suggested. Get lost. Lowly bird. If you dare to talk nonsense again, this divine tower will kill you. The realm tower transmitted an angry soul wave. The divine bird immediately laughed. Look at how excited it is. It seems like there's hope. The entrance must be inside the realm tower. In a split second, the sky turned upside down. Dark clouds covered the sky and lightning flashed. The dark clouds at the top of the realm tower formed a huge whirlpool. The lightning burned the clouds into a fiery red color. The lowly bird was invincible. It could always anger people to death. Now, even the realm tower was angered to life. Yi Qinghan smiled but didn't say anything. He looked at the realm tower, but deep in his heart, he was thinking about how to tear it down. The realm tower was one with the 9 realms heaven. Even the realm master couldn't pose any threat to it. It was almost impossible to tear it down. Yen Ao frowned. His eyes flashed as if they could pierce through the void. The entire realm tower became transparent in his eyes. There was a black hole at the top of the 9-story tower. It was blocked by the realm tower. No one could pass through the top of the tower and walk out of the realm tower. The prison. The entire 9 realms heaven was a prison, a barren land. A sinner's land? Ridiculous. Yen Ao said coldly. Who dares to use the 9 realms heaven as a prison? I'll lead thousands of troops and raze the eternal world to the ground. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The realm tower shone brightly. The space was distorted. The essence of all origins was revealed under the gaze of the great eternity technique. When Yi Qinghan saw the exit at the top of the realm tower, he wanted to tear it down even more. The realm tower was the last gate to leave. If they wanted to enter the 9th floor of the realm tower, they had to get permission from the realm tower. Chapter 1598. The boundary tower would never allow Yi Qinghan to pass through, let alone allow others to enter the eternal world. This was its destiny. Yi Qinghan and Yen Ao wanted to tear down the boundary tower under the instigation of the divine bird, which angered the boundary tower. Boom, boom, buzz. The boundary tower was enraged and unleashed its power to intimidate Yi Qinghan and Yen Ao. However, the divine bird became more and more excited. It did not care about the divine radiance within a radius of 1 trillion miles and the trembling of mountains and rivers. This divine bird is high and mighty. How can I be imprisoned here? Little boundary tower, submit to this divine bird and I will bring you to the eternal world to be an overlord. You will be worshipped by all living beings. The divine bird said excitedly. Boom. A beam of light blasted towards Yi Qinghan and Yen Ao. It was as fast as lightning. The two dodged in a panic but were still sent flying by the aftershock. Their bodies were sent flying by the airwave, crossing the chasm and falling heavily to the ground. From today onwards, the area around the boundary tower is a forbidden area. Anyone who dares to approach will be killed without mercy. A voice exploded like thunder, resounding in every corner of the nine-world sky. Countless miles away, Swanpatian pinched his fingers and calculated. The clouds parted to reveal the moon. The black copper coins sped through the sky. However, there were only 4 coins left. The other 3 were stuck in the barbarian's flesh. He had not taken them back yet. Haha, I have searched for so many years, but I did not expect the exit to be in the boundary tower. Swan Potion's cold light shone in all directions. His face was ferocious and suddenly became cold because he had not reached the 9th floor yet. At this moment, Yi Qinghan stepped into the boundary tower again. Huang, don't challenge my bottom line. Leave the boundary tower immediately. The boundary tower's soul fluctuation was unusually majestic and did not tolerate provocation. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently. It's easy if you don't want me to tear down the boundary tower. Help me kill Swanpatian. I do not participate in the internal affairs of the nine-world sky. The destruction and birth of all things are determined by the heavens. You have no choice but to participate. I exposed the exit to the world so that Swanpatian can enter the boundary tower. Help me block him and let me kill him. The realm tower was silent. After a long time, it transmitted soul fluctuations. This divine pagoda only helped you once because I cared about the lives of the people. This time, I will not interfere. You can decide whether you live or die. Yi Qinghan sneered and said in a low voice, You will help. Don't be so quick to refuse. With that, Yi Qinghan left the boundary tower, bringing the divine bird and Yen Ao with him as he sped away. After returning to the sacred city of the realm of divine martial arts, the army had cleared out every corner of the realm of divine martial arts except for the great wilderness. There was no outbreak of the plague, which gave the broken 9 realms a chance to breathe. Otherwise, it would really become a barbarian land, and not even plants would be left. Now that the exit to the 9 realms heaven had been found, the only thing they could do was to wait for Yi Qinghan to appear. Yi Qinghan entered seclusion to comprehend the record of yin-yang, the rules of order, the orbit of the world, and the profound meaning of reincarnation. Yen Ao rebuilt the army and built the 9 Realms dynasty. With the help of the 6 realm lords, it was even more powerful than the Great Wilderness dynasty. In order to cultivate talents, a large number of supreme gods built sects to cultivate experts and collect resources for the dynasty. The group of people from the crazy sect also participated in this. They built huge sects one after another to collect peerless geniuses. Year after year passed, but Swanpatian seemed to have disappeared. It was more like he had left the 9 realms heaven. There was no trace of him. The real experts understood that this was the calm before the storm. Once the war broke out again, who knew how many people would die? The wild man bared his teeth and looked at the human experts with a covetous expression. However, Lin Wuqian, Jian Bugui, and other super-existences were staring at him, so he did not dare to act recklessly. Xian Zhe cultivated yin-yang. The experts of the crazy sect fought with her to gain battle experience. As her cultivation grew stronger, she could switch between yin and yang and even activate the profound meaning of reincarnation. The profound meaning of reincarnation in her yin-yang great world was formed on its own. The yin-yang great world had already formed another 9 realms heaven, but its vast territory was even larger than the 9 realms heaven. The system was perfect. This was a truly perfect world, far surpassing Yi Qinghan's wild martial great world. There were only a few races in her world. In addition to plants and spirit herbs, there were also some powerful gods. The people of the yin-yang great world became a transcendent existence. Her yin-yang great world was slowly forming different races. Many of the creatures were kind and even cute. It was not like a normal world at all. A few hundred years later, a rainbow light appeared in the sky and pierced through the 9 realms heaven. Yi Qinghan seemed to have not woken up yet. His palms were constantly forming seals. His will controlled all things. Time and space were distorted. The profound meaning of reincarnation appeared in his sea of consciousness. His wild martial great world had undergone earth-shattering changes. The 6 Tao laws and the origin of all things were activated at the same time. The energy of the dead experts would gather in one place and then recombine. They would be born in a new family along the path of reincarnation. They would have no memories and no consciousness. Everything would be reborn. The rainbow light bathed the sacred city. It made people's state of mind sublimate. Their injuries were all healed. It was like a miracle. Shwa. After a long time, Yi Qinghan opened his eyes and looked through the void. He wanted to find the trajectory of the 9 realms heaven. Since Swan Padian could send me to the chaotic world, he must have controlled the trajectory of the 9 realms heaven. If he can do it, I can do it too. Yi Qinghan stared at the void. He wanted to find the whereabouts of Emperor Yi, Bai Zhe, and Bai Shaoxing. This was fundamentally different from Swan Padian controlling his soul's reincarnation. Back then, Swan Padian was the one controlling it. However, Emperor Yi, Bai Zhe, and Bai Shaoxing had already passed away for countless years. It was almost impossible to find their energy. Large beads of sweat appeared on Yi Qinghan's forehead. His soul was exhausted. He tried to comprehend the 9 realms heaven, but he couldn't find any clues even after searching for a long time. Huff huff huff. Yi Qinghan exhaled a few mouthfuls of turbid air. He stepped out of the training room and appeared on the city wall. He used his divine sense to explore the 9 realms heaven. The world's barrier and boundary river appeared in his sea of consciousness. The desolate great wilderness and the chaotic world were right in front of him. If you can separate the 9 realms heaven, then I can also merge the 9 realms heaven. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. He grabbed the sky with both hands and endless energy gathered in his body. His divine sense controlled the boundary river and the world's barrier. He could change their existence with just a thought. Boom boom boom. The world's barrier turned into nothingness. The water of the boundary river sank and sank into the ground of the world. The chasm between the worlds closed up. Endless continental plates collided. In a split second, the sky fell and the earth cracked. The entire world was trembling. 9 realms merged. Boom! The world's barrier of the chaotic world turned into mud and sank to the ground. They came from the inside of the 9 realms heaven. However, Swan Padian condensed them endlessly and made them extremely dense. Even he himself couldn't break through them. The barrier turned into tall mountains. They were barren mountains that emitted a desolate aura. When the chaotic world and the 9 realms heaven merged into one, the profound of reincarnation automatically covered this desolate land. The origin of all living things covered the land and some life started to be born. The great wilderness was still the great wilderness. It enveloped the chaotic world and officially merged the 9 realms heaven. Chapter 1599. The boundless 9 realms sky now looked truly vast and boundless. Even a top existence like Yi Qinghan would need some time to travel billions of miles from the realm tower to the void ocean. Although the yin and yang weren't as dense as Xuanzi, the spiritual energy was more majestic. No matter how one looked at it, it didn't look like a barbarian land, a place where sinners were exiled. From now on, the 9 worlds will be called the 9 continents: Great Desolate State, Primal Chaos State, Snow State, Beast Emperor State, Divine Martial State, Ultimate Martial State, True Martial State, Central Green State, and Supreme State. Yi Qinghan stepped on the void and looked down at everyone. His voice was deep and mighty. It could be heard clearly in every corner of the 9 worlds. The order of the 9 continents, the laws of nature, the heavenly sovereign, the 9 sovereigns of the 9 continents, the primal chaos sovereign, the ultimate martial sovereign, the snow sovereign, the divine martial sovereign, the desolate sovereign, the beast emperor, the true martial sovereign, the Zhong sovereign, the supreme sovereign, and the 3,600 enforcers. 1 enforcer, 2 enforcers, 3 enforcers of yin and yang. Swish! A divine radiance filled the sky and sprinkled down on the mountains and rivers. Yi Qinghan arranged a complete set of laws for the 9 worlds, making the people of the 9 worlds respect them. At this time, there was no longer any racial division. Everyone was the subjects of the heavenly sovereign. The lords of the territories were the sovereigns and those below them were the nobles. The nobles were calculated according to the amount of merit, allowing the people of the 9 worlds to accumulate merit. Only then could the 9 worlds be reborn and become the true 9 continents. The people cheered and looked forward to the heavenly sovereign bestowing the title of sovereign. They also looked forward to having a good sovereign to lead them on the path of the strong. Yi Qinghan withdrew his figure and returned to the sacred city to discuss how to bestow the title of sovereign. The 9 sovereigns ruled over the 9 continents. The enforcers naturally needed reliable people. Yen Ao was like a god when it came to commanding troops. He naturally knew every soldier like the back of his hand. The 3,600 enforcers were decided by him. As for the 9 sovereigns, it was decided by Yi Qinghan. We can't use sector overlords. Firstly, it isn't enough. Secondly, we can't arouse the suspicion and dissatisfaction of righteous Heaven Divine Lord and Wutian Prime. Why don't we use 9 peak absolute paragons? Yi Qinghan looked at Yen Ao, Huang Peng, and the others. The 2 of them nodded. Moreover, the world overlords and paragons couldn't leave the holy city, or else Swan Padian would definitely be able to defeat them one by one. Yi Qinghan quickly decided on 7 sovereigns based on the list provided by Yen Ao. The people of the crazy sect's inner sect can't be sent out. Even if Padian knows my weakness, I'll choose an expert from each realm to guard the 9 great continents. The Chaos Emperor and Desolate Emperor were temporarily vacant. As for the rest of the emperors, they immediately rushed to their respective places after they were conferred the titles. They ruled over the provinces and nurtured geniuses for future use. After everything was taken care of, the doors to the palace were kicked open. The wild ogre stepped into the palace with a ghastly aura and a green light. Yi Qinghan, when will you be able to find my body? You made me wait for a few hundred years and didn't allow me to absorb the vitality of life. If this continues, I'm going to fall out with you. The wild ogre said coldly. Yi Qinghan frowned as he looked at the wild ogre and said solemnly, you have many ways to absorb spiritual energy. There's no need to use a human body as a medium. But killing people is the fastest way for me to advance. Although I'm a poisonous creature, I can still cultivate to become a prime like you. However, in the early stages, they will have to pay with their lives for me. The wild ogre said angrily. Yi Qinghan retracted his cold gaze as he stared at the wild ogre. The corner of his mouth raised into a cold smile as he replied hoarsely, I'm worse than you. You're poisonous, I'm ruthless. You better be careful. The 9 continents has just stabilized. If you dare to destroy it, I'll make you regret it. What a joke. With just you? Without you, I can still kill Padian and seize his body. But you don't have me. With just you guys, how can you be his opponent? The wild ogre sneered in disdain. Dong dong dong. Yi Qinghan knocked on the table. His smile contained a sinister aura. The surrounding temperature quickly changed, and even the wild ogre could no longer control the temperature. Don't forget, your fire element origin was taught by me. In the entire 9 continents, I am the heavenly emperor. No one dares to go against my will. Yi Qinghan coldly stood up and stared at the wild ogre as he said, if you cooperate with me to kill Padian, I'll send you out of the 9 continents. From now on, you can fly as high as you want. If you don't listen, Yi Qinghan paused. His aura pressed down on the wild ogre, causing him to retreat several steps. The wild ogre was furious as he coldly said, what? You'll be even more miserable than Padian. Yi Qinghan replied with certainty. Hua! Yi Qinghan's eyes were filled with flames. The entire hall began to burn. The surrounding temperature quickly changed and became unbearably hot. Screech! The wild ogre miserably screamed. A layer of eerie ghost fire protected him. However, the ghost fire was unable to suppress Yi Qinghan's fire element origin. It was only a matter of time before he was burned by the fire. Yi Qinghan, I promise you. The wild ogre mournfully screamed. Yi Qinghan flicked his sleeves and sat down. However, Huang Peng and Yen Ao did not move at all. They did not even care about the wild ogre. The wild ogre's face was filled with anger. He glared at Yi Qinghan before turning around and leaving. In the hall, Yen Ao stared at the wild ogre's departing figure. After a long time, he faintly said, This wild ogre cannot be left here for long. He must be killed once the battle is over. Huang Peng also agreed. He did not want to leave this time bomb behind. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "It doesn't matter. I left a fire element origin in his sea of consciousness. As long as he does not find another host body, I can take his life at any time." Huang Peng and Yan Ao smiled at the same time and said in unison, "Boss, you have learned to be even more treacherous." Of course. A great teacher produces a great disciple. Without me, he would have been killed by others. However, he does not know how to be grateful. He is not even willing to give me the title of emperor. This divine bird is truly angered to death. The divine bird cursed in dissatisfaction. Yi Qinghan laughed. The divine bird was speaking the truth. Without it, he would not have been able to live until now. Although he was not polite to it on the surface, deep in his heart, he treated it as a piece of his flesh and blood. It was impossible for him to give it up. Divine bird, it is all thanks to you. I understand this in my heart. That is why I did not give you the title of emperor. Otherwise, wouldn't Sui Padian have racked his brains to capture you to threaten me? Look at Yan Ao, Huang Peng, Wu Tian, and the others. Which one of them has been given the title of emperor? Yi Qinghan comforted with a smile. The divine bird flapped its wings. It was still dissatisfied. All these years, there were no benefits for it. However, every time a calamity befell it, Yi Qinghan would drag it down. "Alright, don't be angry. Your son has absorbed so much qi and blood from my body." I did not say anything. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. The little miser had been nesting in Yi Qinghan's qi and blood for so long that it was only left with a golden egg. However, after incubating for so many years, it did not hatch a little divine bird. Even Yi Qinghan felt that this fella was a bit exaggerated. This bastard. I have been pregnant for 1,000 years and it still has not absorbed all the energy. It caused me to be a widow for 1,000 years. When it is born, I will beat it to death. The divine bird roared in anger. Chapter 1600. When the divine bird mentioned the child, not only was it not happy, it was furious. This was because the little miser had spent 1,000 years to give birth to this egg and incubated it for many more years. This egg was divine, yet it still could not hatch a little divine bird. It was no wonder the divine bird was so angry. Seeing the divine bird roar, Yi Qinghan, Yan Ao, and the others, who usually did not smile, laughed heartily. This divine bird egg was truly an oddity. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took out a fist-sized divine egg from the wild martial world. It shone with golden light and was filled with energy. After absorbing energy from the little miser's body for 1,000 years, the little miser still had not recovered. Looking at the round divine egg, Yi Qinghan, Yan Ao, and Huang Peng felt strange. How much energy would this egg need to hatch? The divine bird was not in a good mood at all. It glared at the divine egg and roared, "Little brat, why aren't you born yet? Are you waiting for your father to open the egg?" Dong dong dong. The divine egg rolled on the table and rolled towards Yi Qinghan. "Your father is here. Where are you going?" The divine bird roared angrily. However, the divine egg ignored the divine bird and flew up on its own. It ran to Yi Qinghan's hand and gently swayed and rubbed. It wanted to return to its body and continue absorbing energy. What do you think is going on with this divine egg? A normal egg would have hatched long ago. Yi Qinghan said in surprise. It's a product of a divine bird. It shouldn't be judged with common sense. This is probably the case when the divine bird was born. Yan Ao laughed. Bullshit. I'm not that troublesome. The divine bird said disdainfully. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked, "How do you know? Did your father tell you?" "My father told me that I was worry-free when I was young. I always hid in the egg and did not cause any trouble," the divine bird said confidently. Yi Qinghan and the others were speechless. It seems like it's really hereditary. The growth cycle is really slow. Huang Peng said speechlessly. The growth cycle of the dragon race was nothing more than that. They didn't even need 1,000 years. Yi Qinghan carefully prepared to take the divine egg back into the wild martial great world and nourish it with the power of the world. But at this time, the divine egg shook and sent out a soul fluctuation. Its main target was Yi Qinghan, father. Poof. Huang Peng and Yan Ao almost laughed out loud. However, the divine bird's face turned green. His own son was calling someone else father. That was simply intolerable. Bastard! You took the initiative to make your father a cuckold. Let me kill you and give birth to another one. The divine bird rushed towards Yi Qinghan in a frenzy, but was sent flying by Yi Qinghan with a flick of his finger. Bang! Boom! Boom! The divine bird was bounced against the door and fell back heavily. It rolled a few times before it stopped. Its hair stood up, and its face was ferocious. It was about to attack. It hasn't even been born yet. What can it know? Yi Qinghan reprimanded in annoyance. So this thing isn't your son. If it's your son, you'll probably be angrier than me. The divine bird flapped its wings and trembled in anger. Everything has its vanquisher. It seems like the divine bird has found its match. Yi Qinghan, Yan Ao, and Huang Peng laughed. This divine bird won't lower itself to your level. I want to sever the relationship between father and son. After the divine bird finished speaking, it turned its head and strode out of the hall. Yi Qinghan was in a rare good mood. He hid the divine egg in the wild martial great world and mobilized a large amount of yin and yang power and the power of the world to nourish the divine egg. At this time, the ocean of nothingness was calm. It was as calm as a mirror. A gentle breeze blew and small ripples spread into the distance. Swan Patian rode the wind and broke the waves. It was difficult for the ocean of nothingness to remain calm. Swan Patian's expression was ferocious as he descended into madness. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he gripped the copper coin in his hand and headed south of the void ocean where the golden black tortoise was. There were not many marine race creatures on this vast continent. Many turtle race creatures crawled on the beach, and in the depths of the continent, there was a palace that seemed to belong to a human race. The palace shone with a resplendent golden light and countless runes. No matter if it was a weak or a powerful creature, none of them dared to approach this place. Green vines climbed the cliff and thistles and thorns grew everywhere. They were all wild weeds without intelligence. They covered the palace tightly. If one didn't look carefully, it would be hard to notice that there was actually a palace here. The golden heavenly black turtle was hiding here. Back then, it was scared away by the yin-yang profound record and never left this place again. Swan Patian stealthily appeared outside the palace and saw that the palace gate was tightly shut. The palace was sealed off from all directions. If he tried to force his way in, the golden heavenly black tortoise would be alerted and would be very difficult to kill. If the golden heavenly black tortoise was prepared and used its shell to defend, Swan Patian wouldn't be able to kill it. Dong dong dong. Fellow Taoist black tortoise, I'm Swan Patian. I have something important to discuss with you. Can you open the door? Swan Patian knocked on the door and asked in a deep voice. What's the matter? The golden heavenly black tortoise didn't appear and only coldly replied. Kill the desolate lord and seize the yin-yang profound record. From then on, you are free. Swan Patian's eyes flashed as he spoke in a low voice. The yin-yang law enforcer has already appeared. If the four heavenly beasts leave the void ocean now, they will be courting death. If you want to die, don't drag us down with you. The golden heavenly black tortoise angrily replied. Haha. Swan Patian laughed and then said in disdain, Isn't it easy to kill the desolate lord? As long as you cooperate with me to block the others and leave the desolate lord to me, he naturally won't have time to enforce the law. This heavenly beast is not interested. Fellow Taoist should leave. The golden heavenly black tortoise said in a muffled voice. The exit of the 9 worlds has already appeared. There really is an outside world. Could it be that the high and mighty 4 heavens are really willing to be imprisoned in this ocean of nothingness? Swan Patian said coldly. What? The palace gate opened and golden light soared into the sky. The palace was dazzling and there were rare treasures everywhere. The giant golden heavenly black tortoise laid in the palace and stared at the cave entrance. It looked at Swan Patian with disdain and said coldly, The exit of the 9 worlds sky has appeared? Of course. Everyone knows that it is in the World Tower, but you guys are cowards and don't dare to take half a step into the nine-world sky. No wonder you are imprisoned here, guarding the four directions and being a watchdog. If you don't dare to attack again, then don't call yourself a heavenly beast. Just call yourself a heavenly dog. Swanpatian disdainfully sneered. Boom! The golden heavenly black tortoise was furious. It flipped its body and ruthlessly smashed at Swanpatian, who was at the cave entrance. Bang! Swanpatian was already prepared. He pressed his palm on the tortoise's back and felt that his wrist was about to be shattered. He hurriedly retreated and understood the defense of the golden heavenly black tortoise. Lowly human. Other than the yin-yang profound record, there is nothing that can suppress this heavenly beast. The golden heavenly black tortoise angrily scolded. Dao friend, don't be angry. You have to know that I am also a member of the yin-yang profound race. The yin-yang profound record, I can also control it. If you guys want to forever be high above and not be suppressed by the outside world, then you have to cooperate with me to kill the desolate lord. And I will help you destroy the yin-yang profound record. Swanpatian narrowed his eyes and stared at the golden heavenly black tortoise. He held 4 black copper coins in his hand that were almost embedded in his flesh. Chapter 1601. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The black tortoise continent was silent. The black tortoise in the palace relaxed its vigilance and looked at Swanpatian. I'm a man of my word. If you help me, I'll help you get rid of the heavenly fate. From now on, you can go anywhere you want in the 9 worlds. Swanpatian said. The black tortoise was powerful, it didn't want to be suppressed, not to mention the yin-yang mysterious record. Have you found the heaven-breaking dragon and heaven-splitting sword tiger? The black tortoise asked. Among the 4 heavenly beasts, you're the strongest. No one can compete with you in terms of defense. As long as I can convince you, they won't be a problem. Swanpatian flattered. Haha. The black tortoise laughed and was about to accept the title of the 4 heavenly beasts. Suddenly, lightning flashed and shook the palace. Boom, boom, 2, 2. 7 stars locked the sky. Bang! Roar! The black tortoise roared in pain and tried to pull its head back, but it couldn't move its neck. It could only roar and throw its body at Swanpatian. Swanpatian smiled in disdain and dodged the black tortoise's attack. The entire palace shook and a low roar rushed into the sky. The hall trembled, and the entire continent began to tremble along with it. Swanpatian, how dare you trick me? The black tortoise roared. Rely on you? Unreliable. Since that's the case, I'll gather the strengths of the 4 heavenly beasts and become an eternal existence. Swanpatian smiled sinisterly and attacked from the sky. Boom! The black tortoise shook its body and shot out a divine light to kill Swanpatian. Unfortunately, Swanpatian's speed was too fast and the black tortoise was blocked outside. It was dizzy. Boom! 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 The black tortoise's blood flowed like a river. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. The 3 most common copper coins were the first to move, but Swanpatian didn't give them a chance. A sharp sword appeared in his hand, and with a rainbow arc, he cut open the palace and the coins fell down. You shouldn't have trusted me. Swanpatian coldly said. Boom, boom. In the void ocean, huge waves surged and dark clouds covered the sky. Heaven and earth rumbled incessantly as the sea raged. The entire void ocean, including the 9 worlds heaven, trembled violently. Cries of anguish could be heard everywhere. Shenwu Province, Sacred City. Yi Qinghan abruptly woke up from his seclusion. He walked out of the palace and looked at the 9 heavens, pinching his fingers to deduce. His expression changed immediately. Not good, Swanpatian killed the golden celestial black tortoise and wants to devour the power of heavenly beasts, borrowing the black tortoise's defense. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. It was already too late to stop Swanpatian. The golden celestial black tortoise was already dead, and it would be too late by the time he arrived. As for the other 3 heavenly beasts, they knew that a heavenly beast had fallen from the sky. Their hearts were filled with fear. A sovereign heavenly beast was even harder to kill than a world overlord. How could a sovereign heavenly beast fall so easily? At this moment, Swan Padian devoured all of the golden celestial black tortoise's origin energy. It was already too late for the golden celestial black tortoise's body. In the end, the golden celestial black tortoise's shell was refined into his own defensive armor. Even a boundary weapon couldn't destroy his defense. Ha! Huang, I have an unparalleled defense. Now that I've gathered the 4 heavenly beasts' origin energy, let's see how you're going to fight against me this time. Swan Padian madly laughed. He stepped on the sky and flew straight towards the east. In the distant eastern sea region, the divine dragon soared into the sky. It controlled wind, water, thunder, and lightning as it overlooked the void ocean. Its eyes flashed as it wanted to find the vicious beast that killed the heavenly beasts. However, since Swan Padian wanted to kill someone, how could he not hide? At this moment, the heavenly mysteries became chaotic again, making it difficult for others to grasp. Roared out the western heaven sword tiger roared. The sword wings on its back flashed coldly. It controlled the space-time law and sensed the changes of the time and space around it. It was under attack. First, they suspected that Yi Qinghan was the culprit. When they thought of Yi Qinghan, their eyes became filled with killing intent. At this moment, Swan Padian rushed over from the south, but Yi Qinghan had to bring Jian Bugui, Lin Wutian, Gu Qingyu, and a large number of experts from the Shenwu continent to the Void Ocean. They wanted to stop Swan Padian from killing more heavenly beasts. In short, they could not allow him to merge all of the 4 heavenly beasts' abilities. Whoosh 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 dot boom boom boom. Streams of light flashed in the sky. Yi Qinghan and the rest rushed to the great wilderness and entered the Void Ocean. The Xingui continent in the south was deathly silent. Yi Qinghan looked towards the south. He wanted to go take a look, but he was stopped by Yan Ao. Even if we go now, we won't be able to find any clues. Swan Padian won't give us a chance, Yan Ao said. Let's go. Let's go to the Dragon Clan's territory in the east. Yi Qinghan took the lead and rushed towards the east. At this moment, Swan Padian took a detour and appeared beside the tyrant dragon god from the north. He said anxiously, "Fellow Dragon Emperor, according to my calculations, the Desolate Lord used the yin-yang record to suppress the Gold Sky Black Tortoise. I'm here to warn you. That damned Desolate. He even dares to kill heavenly beasts." The tyrant dragon god roared. He had guessed that Yi Qinghan was the one who had killed the heavenly beasts. Now, he was even more certain and did not doubt Swan Padian. After all, they were allies, and Swan Padian had not come from the south. Fellow Dragon Emperor, we should quickly join forces with the other 2 heavenly beasts to resist Desolate. We should suppress it, seize the yin-yang record, and completely destroy it. Swan Padian suggested. Let's go. Find the sky-splitting sword tiger and the sky-protecting Qilin. The tyrant dragon god was finally afraid of Yi Qinghan. Without hesitation, he rushed towards the north to look for the Qilin guardian. Swan Padian followed closely behind and stared at the soft scale at the tyrant dragon god's 7th inch. A snake's weakness was at the 7th inch. Even if the tyrant dragon was a dragon, it could not escape from this weakness. Its weakness was still the wound on the soft scale at the bottom of its neck. It did not have much defense and could be easily penetrated. Just as the 2 of them were rushing, Swan Padian realized that the tyrant dragon god had slightly relaxed its defense. However, the defense around its neck did not relax at all. The tyrant dragon god did not mind that Swan Potion's eyes were so vicious. Yi Qinghan was chasing from the back. His speed was extremely fast, but he was only slightly faster than the tyrant dragon god. The distance between them was constantly closing. His aura was soaring as he wanted to warn the tyrant dragon god. The tyrant dragon god turned around and saw the space-time distortion in the distance. It was shocked and relaxed. Most of its attention was attracted by Yi Qinghan. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Another 4 black copper coins were the first to penetrate the tyrant dragon god's soft scale. Following that, 3 ordinary copper coins took the opportunity and penetrated the tyrant dragon god's defense. Roar! The tyrant dragon god roared. The majestic energy in its body could not be used by even half. Its physical body fell into the void ocean. The dragon's aura dissipated, and its physical body was distorted. It crashed into the void ocean and sent huge waves into the distance. Boom! Swan Potion's body was like lightning. His 5 fingers pierced into the soft scale and forcefully seized the heavenly beast's dragon blood and origin energy. Chapter 1602. Swan Potion injured the berserk dragon with lightning speed and sealed the connection between its soul and body. The berserk dragon could no longer move, allowing Swan Potion to absorb its energy and devour its origin energy. The huge body of the berserk dragon rolled in the ocean of nothingness, unable to move its head and tail. The 7 stars heaven lock suppressed all the energy in its body. Roar, roar, roar! The berserk dragon roared, and the first copper coin was shaken out of its body, followed by the second copper coin. Swan Potion was rapidly devouring the berserk dragon's flesh and blood. The berserk dragon's body quickly withered, its vitality, flesh, and origin energy were all being consumed quickly. 7 stars heaven lock. Boom! Swan Potion saw the berserk dragon's struggle becoming more and more frenzied. He formed another seal with both hands, and a 7 stars heaven lock diagram was sent into the berserk dragon's sea of consciousness. Bang! The berserk dragon fell into the ocean, and Swan Potion seized the opportunity to seize the Tao fruit. Heavenly beasts could also die. Although their vitality and origin energy were inexhaustible, it still depended on who took it. Swan Potion was an old ghost, and his body was filled with divine light. His profundity was fully displayed, and his strength had increased by more than a little. His body had also become like a berserk dragon, covered in scales and emitting golden light. Yi Qinghan was coming from the back, and the distance between them was getting closer and closer. However, Swan Potion was laughing sinisterly, and the speed at which he absorbed the berserk dragon's energy was increasing. Boom! Yi Qinghan swung his saber at Swan Potion, and combined with Jian Bugui and Lin Wutian's sword force, they were as fast as lightning, and the saber and sword pierced through space and time. Boom! The power of the 3 struck the berserk dragon at the same time, and the berserk dragon's body was blasted away by the waves. Haha! Huang, you're too late. Swan Potion used his last attack, and directly devoured the berserk dragon's origin energy, flesh, blood, and blood. Only a skeleton was left floating on the ocean of nothingness. Boom! Swan Potion stood on top of the dragon bone in high spirits. His momentum was higher than the 9 heavens. With a wave of his hand, the ocean followed his command. With a single thought, a domain of 10,000 miles was formed. Within this domain, all living beings were its subjects and were nothing more than ants. Swish! Yi Qinghan appeared outside the domain and stopped the other experts. He looked cautiously at Swan Potion and knew that he was no match for him. Heavenly Lord Jingtian and the others had also arrived. Seeing Swan Potion's crazed state and the divine dragon skeleton, they couldn't help but shudder. They could only rejoice that they didn't continue to cooperate with him. Otherwise, they would also be left with some bones. Xingtun Wuyan, do you too want to oppose me? Swan Potion's cold gaze locked onto the 2 supremes as he asked in a cold voice. This. The 2 of them sucked in a breath of cold air and drew their swords. You old bastard, you are truly vicious. You even killed the heavenly beasts that were working with you, what more us? We have been used by you for so many years. Now, we will definitely stand on the desolate Lord's side. Even if we die, we will not frown. Divine Lord Just Sky said angrily. Swan Potion let out a sinister laugh, revealing a row of sinister teeth. His hair was white, but he didn't have the slightest bit of immortal demeanor, causing others' hair to stand on end. Wild Ghost's gaze became even more eerie, and he saw Swan Potion as food. He started to drool, and he turned to Yi Qinghan as he said eerily, "You won't stop me now, right? His body is mine. He is my host." Yi Qinghan's fingertips moved slightly, and the Great Wastelands tablet appeared behind his back. The heavy berserk sword in his hand let out a long roar, shaking the huge waves to both sides. Inda Yi Qinghan took out the stone sword and threw it to Lin Wutan. His eyes signaled everyone to slowly retreat. What? Now you know to retreat? Swan Potion's sinister voice carried an icy chill, causing people's hair to stand on end. Yi Qinghan's face was expressionless as he coldly said, Swan Potion, I will not retreat today. Unless you run away like a dog again, you and I will die today. Swan Potion sneered and clenched his iron fist. He withdrew his aura and ignored Yi Qinghan. Instead, his gaze locked onto Wild Ghost's body. His hand grabbed the air, and he directly pulled out the black copper coin embedded in Wild Ghost's body. He hovered in the air in front of Wild Ghost, and looked at the poisonous thing attached to the coin with the corner of his mouth raised. Something that is neither human nor ghost. It is actually a poisonous thing that resides in a person's body, and it actually wants to attach itself to this old man's body. Swan Potion loosened his fist, and his mind controlled the 3 black copper coins to shoot out a bolt of lightning. They rubbed against the air, creating a scorching temperature that directly pierced through Wild Ghost's body. Boom! Pucci, no matter how hard and sticky the body was at this moment, in Swan Potion's eyes, it was all rotten wood. Ah! Wild Ghost screamed. The temperature of the hole in his body was changed by the friction of the black copper coins, causing him to scream like crazy. He bared his fangs and brandished his claws. His eyes were ferocious as they twisted on the surface of the sea. Unable to withstand a single blow. The helpers you found are only SOS. Swan Potion aggressively provoked. No, they came this time to seal the sky, not to help. I alone am enough to kill you. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed, and his mind controlled the yin-yang profound record. Golden light flashed on his body, turning into a talisman soldier that could charge out of his body at any time and suppress everything. Yin-yang law enforcement. Swan Potion's pupils shrunk as he saw an extremely beautiful girl appear beside Yi Qinghan. It was Xianzhe. The two of them focused on controlling yin-yang. Xianzhe was yin, and Yi Qinghan was yang. Yin and yang merged, and the 8 trigrams appeared. The two of them interlocked their fingers, and their other 2 hands were forming seals. The yin-yang profound records reaction was getting stronger and stronger. Shuada, a large number of experts rushed out from the yin-yang Great World and Wild Martial Great World. Yen Ao waved his flag, and millions of supreme gods and some pseudo-world lords formed a formation. Shua! Eternal One thought. Yen Ao's mind moved, and the space in front of him froze. Everything became eternal, and even space was torn apart. The army quickly formed a formation. Yi Qinghan and Xianzhe also merged their souls, and their aura became stronger and stronger. The yin-yang profound record appeared in front of the two of them, and flashed, flying higher and higher, covering a wider area. Shua shua shua. Xiao xiao xiao. Swan Potion kept retreating, trying to escape from the yin-yang profound record's light. Heaven's mandate. Yin-yang law enforcement. Yi Qinghan and Xianzhe said at the same time. Their bodies shone with golden light, and their talisman soldier rushed into the sky, holding a blade and attacking Swan Potion. Shua, a divine light rushed out from the yin-yang profound record, and together with the talisman soldier, it suppressed the 9 heavens and the sea. The entire surface of the sea was sinking. Boom boom boom. The waves parted, and the entire void ocean was about to be separated. Boom. The divine light hit Swan Potion, but the black tortoise shell appeared on his body, covering his entire body and blocking the divine light. Boom. The divine light and the black tortoise shell clashed, but they didn't retreat. Roar. Swan Potion stomped on the mountains and rivers, and his veins popped out. His 10 fingers formed seals, and 7 black copper coins formed the 7-star Heavenlock Great Array, slashing towards the yin-yang profound record. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.